Chapter 8:27. One was the main body, and the other was a spiritual treasure that cultivated both life and death. If these two things were destroyed, even if one didn't die, it would cause irreparable damage. Even a sage would find it hard to bear. Even with Nua's creation methods, it would be difficult for her to repair it. The only way was Hongjun Tiandao, the creation of the great Tao and eternal blessings. However, such a situation could only be encountered by chance. Especially in the desolation world, there was basically no such thing. Even if it was placed in the myriad of worlds, not to mention obtaining it, even seeing such a fortune was extremely rare. It could not be obtained without the right time, place, and people, great luck, and great opportunities. Once the foundation was shaken, it could be said that the great Tao had been destroyed. Therefore, Dipong didn't dare to take the risk. Although the 12 heavens were also the foundation, the damage was far less than the main body and the spirit coffin lamp. One was the head and the heart. There definitely couldn't be any problems. The other was the limbs and facial features. Although they were destroyed, they could at least survive and even have a chance to be reconstructed. If they were destroyed, then so be it. They could still be reconstructed in the future. Perhaps there could be no construction without destruction, and there could be construction after destruction. And Dipong knew that Fang Qingshan had the other 12 sea calming pearls. As long as they took down Fang Qingshan, all losses could be made up for. Boom! The timeless arc crashed into the 12 heavens like a hot knife through butter. Countless divine lights flashed. The power of a medium-sized world was indeed not to be underestimated. It actually stopped the speed of the timeless Arkansas, although it was only a stalemate for a few seconds. But it was already very rare. One by one, the sea calming pearls hit the chaos demonic horn. The timeless arc only slowed down a little, and the chaos demonic horn only dimmed slightly. The sea calming pearls were like eggs hitting a rock under the repeated collisions. They were instantly covered in spiderweb-like cracks, as if they were about to collapse at any time. The 12 heavens looked like it was the end of the world. Billions of living beings were bleeding, and the heavens were crying blood. Compared to the pressure of the 12 heavens, the resentment of the billions of living beings that perished was not as strong, but it was more difficult to deal with, and caused more damage to the chaos demonic horn. He sensed that the heaven of the 12 heavens had perished. The place that he had painstakingly built up since he became a god had been destroyed in a day. His heart was bleeding. However, it was clear that this was not enough. The 12 heavens were on the verge of collapsing. Randang was also a ruthless person. He was ruthless to others and himself. Explode. In any case, after the collision with the timeless arc, even if the 12 heavens weren't destroyed, they were basically half crippled. Since that was the case, he directly detonated the 12 heavens. On one hand, it was to delay the timeless arc as much as possible, giving time for the treasures of abundance and the others to come to their aid, so as to preserve their lives. On the other hand, the self-destruction of the 12 heavens was equivalent to the self-destruction of at least one top-tier Khanate spiritual treasure. Presumably, it could even cause some damage to the timeless Arkansas rumble. It was as if a black hole had exploded and the universe had taken shape. Countless sparks burst forth, like the most brilliant fireworks. However, a terrifying power leaked out, causing the surrounding void to distort crazily. There were even hair-like cracks that appeared. Although they disappeared in a flash, it was enough to make one's soul tremble. Although the 12 heavens couldn't be compared to the coffin and the coffin lamp, it was also extremely important to Randang. The self-destruction of the 12 heavens naturally caused him to be seriously injured as he was implicated, especially his primordial spirit. He opened up the 12 heavens and used his own will to transform into Hongjun Tiandao. The destruction of the 12 heavens and the fall of Hongjun Tiandao, his primordial spirit naturally suffered unprecedented damage. The self-destruction of the 12 heavens only slightly delayed the process of the timeless Arkansas. A moment later, it was still crashing towards Randang without losing any momentum. Although it was strong in one go, it was weak in the second and exhausted in the third. However, given Ronding's current state. Not to mention the timeless arc, even an ordinary deck attack could kill him if the Horn of Chaos came crashing over. With his primordial spirit exploding, he couldn't even use his numinous treasure Mystique to defend himself. Fortunately, after such a delay, Duo Bao, Kong Xian, and the others finally rushed over. Go! Duo Bao directly took out the Immortal Extermination Array diagram and wrapped it around Randang. He took the lead to protect it. Kong Xian's five-color divine light shone out and swept towards the timeless Arkansas. Then Xidagarba's Zen staff, Mithrya's blessed divine pestle, Apothecary's bamboo of tranquility, Luya's immortal slaying flying dagger, all smashed onto the timeless Arkansas. This was really going all out and not holding anything back. As a result, the great void divine armor flickered, and the timeless arc was sent flying and deviated from its original trajectory. The timeless arc brushed past the Immortal Extermination Array diagram and flew over. Although it was not a head-on collision, and with the protection of the Immortal Extermination Array diagram, the vibrating force that passed through the diagram still overwhelmed Randang. It made things worse, and he completely lost the ability to fight. Damn it, everyone attack together. Use all your strength. Seeing Ronding's fate, Duo Bao was furious. He and the others had planned so well and besieged Randang, but he had almost died. Yet, Fang Qingshan was unharmed. This was simply a slap in the face. Those who knew would say that the timeless arc was ferocious, and those who did not know would think that they were incompetent. If they could not do this beautifully today, they would become a laughingstock if word got out. It was not only Duo Bao. Kong Xian also felt the same way. He was such a proud person that he did not even care about sages and dared to provoke them. Now, it was already very degrading for him to agree to join forces with others. He actually let the enemy turn around and attack him right under his nose. This was definitely a blatant disdain for him. As for the others, they grieved for the loss of their own kind. Even Randang had almost died after being schemed against by Fang Qingshan. Other than Duo Bao and Kong Xian, who would dare to say that their cultivation and numinous treasures were stronger than Ronding's? Who could guarantee that they would be able to escape unscathed? Even Luya, who held the mountain river map in his hand, was a little shocked. It seemed that he was not that safe. At this moment, the others were no longer as relaxed and confident as when they first arrived. Therefore, when they heard Duo Bao's call, they naturally did not hesitate, because it was also beneficial to them. Otherwise, if they faced Ronding's situation, they did not know if they could persevere. Moreover, although Randang had survived, he had paid a shocking price. Even the 12 heavens that had attained the Tao had been destroyed, and his essence soul had almost fallen silent. He had to end the battle quickly and not give Fang Qingshan another chance to counterattack. What a pity, seeing that Randang was protected by Duo Bao and kept in the Sumeru space. Fang Qingshan could not help but sigh. Just a little bit more, and he would have succeeded. However, it was good. If he had really killed Randang, things would have gotten out of hand. At that time, things would have gotten out of hand. Although he was in the right this time, if someone really died, the situation would be very different. After all, Ronding's status in the Buddhist sect was not simple. However, facing the crazy counterattack of Duo Bao and the others, he could probably only use the Zhodian Star Array. Chapter 828. Great Scarlet Sky. The hearts of Zhuandi, who was discussing the Tao with Laozi, suddenly skipped a beat. They could no longer wholeheartedly discuss the Tao. Originally, they were the ones who pulled Laozi so that he could not be distracted and let Duo Bao and the others quickly suppress Fang Qingshan. That way, it would become an established fact and only suppress Fang Qingshan. Even if Laozi came back to his senses and knew that it was too late, he could only suffer in silence. He could not say anything and pinch his nose and accept it. However, who knew that Fang Qingshan would be so ferocious? It was beyond their expectations. When Duo Bao, Kong Xian, Randang, Xidagarba, and the others had almost gone all out, they were still able to fight well. In fact, a sudden attack almost caused Randang to die. As a result, Zhuandi and Duo Bao almost lost their minds. Instead, they were the first to have a problem. The reason for that was naturally because Randang had almost died. The Buddhist sect had the horizontal Buddha and the vertical Buddha. The horizontal Buddha referred to Sakyamuni Buddha in the middle, who was in charge of the Saha world. The medicine Buddha on the right was in charge of the eastern glazed light world. The Amitabha on the left was in charge of the western paradise. The vertical Buddha referred to the present Buddha, Sakyamuni Buddha. The left was the past Buddha, Randang Buddha. The right was the future Buddha, Maitreya Buddha. The vertical Buddha and horizontal Buddha formed the core system of Buddhism, making it a complete sect. The core was Sakyamuni Buddha, who was also the current master of the Buddhist sect, Duobao Rilai. However, one flower was not spring, and one tree did not make a forest. Apart from the saint, the other few people also had an important and irreplaceable position in the Buddhist sect. Once Randang died, the teachings of the Buddhist sect would not be perfected. The losses would be huge. It was no wonder that the two of them were terrified. If one wanted to nurture an expert like Randang, they would need the right time, place, and people. It was not something that could be achieved with time and resources. After all, there were very few people like Sun Wukong since the Desolation World was created. Moreover, he didn't know how many years had passed since he became a heaven-mending stone and took human form. Fortunately, Dipankara had made a prompt decision to cut off his arm in order to survive. Although he had destroyed the 12 heavens, compared to Dipankara himself, it was worth it. If the 12 heavens were destroyed, they could still think of another way. If Dipankara died, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack to find a replacement. Coupled with the timely help of Duo Bao and the others, Zhuanti could not help but heave a sigh of relief. However, before they could even exhale, they saw their father's cold gaze. Their hearts skipped a beat. Since the three of them were discussing the Tao, the two of them naturally had to go all out if they wanted to distract their father. I haven't even discovered the problem yet, but they're already shaken up by themselves. Now that he was distracted and his aura was connected, it immediately alerted the old man. Following the cause and effect, how could he not know what had happened? Well done, Taoist, Laozi said coldly. He had always been the one scheming against others, but he didn't expect that he would be schemed against by Zhuani and the others this time. The anger in his heart was about to erupt. Although he didn't do anything, it didn't mean that he didn't care about anything. There was nothing that he wouldn't do. Just like the heart of heaven, ordinary people couldn't feel it under normal circumstances, but he was everywhere. However, the more angry he was, the calmer he was. However, his indifferent expression made Zhuanti and the others feel uneasy. But the arrow on the bow had to be fired. At this time, there was no way out. After paying so much, almost all the Buddhist sects came out, and even Dipankara almost died. If they still couldn't do it, it would be too much of a loss. The two of them secretly prepared to stop the old man no matter what, and let Duo Bao and the others suppress Fong Qingshan. It was too scary. In the past, although they knew about the fame of the Timeless Arc, seeing it was better than hearing about it. It was just an unparalleled level Timeless Arc, but it was so amazing that it almost made Duo Bao, Kong Xian, and the other top quasi-sages lose their halberds. If they didn't suppress him and let him continue to develop, not to mention reaching the supreme level, even if he went one step further and broke through the supreme level, even if a sage took action, without using the power of Hongjun Tiandao, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him. In this way, even if the Buddhist sects rose, they would probably be suppressed by this person. Do you think you can stop me? The old man sneered. Unknowingly, the heaven and earth yellow exquisite pagoda, the Tai Chi diagram, and the carrying pole had already lit up. Heavenly Venerable has a profound cultivation base and sits on a treasure. Us two brothers are inferior, but I think it's still possible to stall the Heavenly Venerable. Jialin took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. As he spoke, the Bodhi tree, the Seven Wonder tree, the Golden Pagoda of Guidance, and the 10th Great Golden Lotus were also taken out. When the old man heard this, he immediately fell silent. Jie Yin's words left him speechless. It was the same as the Heavenly Venerable of primordial beginning facing Nuwa. They sat on a treasure because of Pan Gu's legacy. Compared to others, they had a deeper understanding of the Tao, and their cultivation levels were more powerful. However, they were all sages, and there wasn't a huge gap between them. As long as they really made up their minds to stall the other party, it would be impossible to get rid of them in a short time. It was especially so when they didn't have any offensive weapons in their hands. For a moment, the old man couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have listened to the heavenly venerable of primordial beginning. If he didn't join forces with the two from the Western sect, he wouldn't have owed karma, broken the immortal vanquishing sword array, and the Jie school wouldn't have been destroyed. If the Jie school wasn't destroyed, the Buddhist sects could forget about prospering. Although the 10,000 immortals of the Jie school had come to suppress Rin's school and Chan's school, the meat was rotten in the pot. After all, they were from the Xianmen sect. The red flowers, white lotus roots, and green lotus leaves were originally one family. It wasn't like now, where trouble arose and the fishermen benefited. Of course, this feeling was fleeting in the old man's mind. People could not live in the past. Since it had become an established fact, there was nothing to regret. Moreover, without Jie school, wouldn't there be Rin school? It turned out that Rin school relied on itself. Although the great Taoist Master Xiandu was not bad, he was also an only child. Now, Fang Qingshan had risen. Good heavens, he really gave me a huge surprise. He actually obtained an opportunity like the timeless arc and even nurtured it to the unparalleled level. With the help of the timeless arc, even Duo Bao and the others could not take him down in a short time. It was really 1 against 10. With him, even if the Buddhist sects prospered, the Rin school and the Xianmen sect could rest easy. However, it was not easy for such a genius to appear in my sect. He was actually schemed against under my nose. At the thought of that, the anger in his heart increased. Fortunately, based on the current situation, Fang Qingshan was not in too much danger. Instead, Duo Bao and the others were attacked by him and almost failed. However, he was also prepared at all times. Once Fang Qingshan was in danger, he would attack even if he risked being punished by Daozu and exposing his trump card. He would directly use the One Qi Sanqing to save Fang Qingshan. Chapter 829. Buddhism was the Tao. Ever since the battle between the primordial Taoists and fiends, the world had been dominated by the celestial sect. Whether it was Buddhism, Taoism, or others, all the laws in the world came from the purple heaven. However, with Daozu's Tao integration, Hongjun Tian Tao retired, and the sage took the place of heaven. The Western sect was the first to establish their own sect. From then on, Tao and Buddhism were separated. However, at this time, the Buddhist sect was just an unorthodox sect in the eyes of the celestial sect. After all, whether it was the sage, treasure, heritage, or territory, the celestial sect was enough to crush the Buddhist sect. Unfortunately, the celestial sect broke the golden soup. The celestial sect was not a monolithic piece. As the saying goes, one Tao was passed down to 3 friends, the 2 sects were divided, and the celestial sect was the leader. That was the principle of turning into Sanqing. With the separation of Sanqing, the God-confirmant war. Under such circumstances, the Buddhist sect was no longer able to escape and even bullied the celestial sect. As the eldest senior brother of the celestial sect, how could I sit back and do nothing about such a situation? Thus, there was the Buddhist sect. Unfortunately, the mystical powers were no match for the heavens. After the defeat of the Jie school, the Buddhist sect took advantage of the situation and rose. Even the sage could not act against the heavens. However, seeing the rise of a person he had once looked down on and suppressed the celestial sect, he felt uncomfortable. However, there was nothing he could do, especially after the sage was grounded. Fortunately, it was different with Fang Qingshan. That was also the reason why he secretly made up his mind to attack, no matter the price. As long as Fang Qingshan grew up. No, even now, Fang Qingshan had become the most powerful existence under the sage and the Rin school, and even the celestial sect. And all of this was not the limit of Fang Qingshan. Because with the timeless arc, there were infinite possibilities. Although Feng Qingshan's timeless arc was unparalleled, it was still a supreme level away from the supreme level, and it required a lot of resources. Even if the entire Rin School was used to help him, it would be very difficult. However, the primordial chaos road had been opened, and breaking through to the primordial chaos zenith heaven was only a matter of time. What about the great Taoist Master Xiandu? Even though he was already standing at the pinnacle of quasi-sage, who knew how long it would take for him to make a breakthrough. Furthermore, there was no primordial chaos violet chi in desolation, so one could not become a sage. It was even more difficult to break through to primordial chaos than to become a sage. Didn't you see that Yang Mei was the only one in the entire desolation who had broken through to the primordial chaos realm? On the other hand, Zhang Xian was a chaos demon god in the past, a top-notch space demon god at that. Rather than calling a breakthrough, it would be more accurate to call it a recovery. Correspondingly, once Feng Qingshan broke through to the primordial chaos realm, it would be too helpful to the entire Rin School and his main body. You can't blame me for placing such importance on it. Not only does Feng Qingshan have the timeless arc, but he also has the Grand Mist Violet Chi. Moreover, there was also Mosquito Dauren. Just like the timeless arc, as long as he had enough resources, the path to primordial chaos would be unimpeded. If you're to find out, who knows how he would feel? Even the thought of not offending evil would surface. After all, the human heart was a wonderful thing. What about Feng Qingshan at that moment? Although he was not in danger, he was a little strained under the eruption of Duo Bao and the others. Even if the timeless arc used all its means, even if the Great Void Divine Armor had unparalleled defense, even if the timeless arc's main body had great defense, however, under the eruption of Duo Bao and the others, the entire timeless arc was still beaten back. Along the way, huge chaos stones were smashed into pieces, turning into countless tiny meteors that quickly collapsed. The terrifying power impacted the timeless Arkansas. Although there were no terrifying cracks, it also made the Great Void Divine Armor and the timeless arc's main body dim. The Thunder-Gathering Pagoda was overloaded, and the Eternal Lightning Pool storage condition was worrying. It seems like there's no time to lose. Looks like there's no time to lose. It's time to show my true skills. Feng Qingshan's heart stirred, and he immediately took out the Zhoutian star map. Whoosh! The array diagram unfolded like a scroll, turning into a boundless galaxy. Boundless starlight flickered in the galaxy, and countless stars were lit up one by one. The stars were scattered all over the place, releasing the power of the stars in the universe. As the map unfolded, the galaxy grew and expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if there was no limit. The entire space was completely controlled by the map, turning into an independent world. It directly evolved into an independent world. The stars moved, and the sky changed. In a split second, Duo Bao and the others were trapped in the world of the array. In an instant, everyone seemed to have left the chaos and returned to the primordial galaxy. Once the Zhoutian star array was set up, its murderous power pierced through the 9 heavens. Its baleful aura was not inferior to the immortal slaying sword array or the great divine fiend array. Although the location where Feng Qingshan had set up the array was not the desolation primordial galaxy. But what was an array map? It meant that it could be set up at any time and would not be limited to a region. It was just that without the support of the primordial galaxy, its power might be somewhat reduced. However, because of the timeless arc, the lightning gathering tower, and the eternal pool of lightning, it could directly draw in the chaotic chi to evolve into stars, and its power was not weak. The array map formed a world of its own, with the timeless arc sitting in the eye of the array. The bridge of the Permitha, the passing water lamp, the great void armor, and the death scythe were integrated into it. As it operated, its potential could be said to be limitless. Beams of dazzling light shot into the sky, tearing through the heavens. The Zhoutian star array was the foundation, the lightning gathering tower, and the eternal pool of lightning converted the chaotic chi to evolve the stars as the foot of the array, and the timeless arc directly acting as the eye of the array. The evolution of the starry sky, the cycle of life and death, and the endless mysteries seemed to happen in an instant. Viscous starlight, boundless pressure, and the mighty power of the array crushed toward myriad treasures and the others with an earth-shattering force. The Jodion star array. Seeing this scene, Duo Bao and the others could not help but exclaim in unison. One must know that the three ultimate arrays of desolation were existences that could counterattack sages. Its might was obvious to all, and it had been verified. Why could the sorcerer and demon races dominate desolation and make sages retreat? Wasn't it because of the Jotion star and the divine fiend array? And the reason why the sect leader of heaven could fight 1 against 4 was also because of the fairy slaying sword array. When the others saw the heavenly cycle stellar formation, the shock in the hearts of myriad treasures, and Luya could not be any greater. Duo Bao was shocked because he had once controlled the equally famous fairy slaying sword array. And Luya was shocked because he had the complete Jodion star array map in his mind. This was imprinted in the depths of his primordial spirit by his father, Dijun. He had also set up a seal, and as his cultivation continued to increase, it would be unlocked. However, because he did not have the Jotion star banner, he could not control the Jodion star. Without hundreds of demon gods, the river diagram of the Luo, and the bell of the East Emperor, he could not set up the array even if he had the array map. However, he did not expect that Fong Qingshan, an outsider, could set up the demon race's guardian array that even he, the demon prince, could not set up. At this moment, Luya and Duo Bao were not the only ones who were shocked. Kuan Peng and Nuwa were also shocked. Kuan Peng was shocked because he thought that after Dijun and Tai Yi, he was probably the only one in desolation who knew the Jodion star array. He did not expect Fong Qingshan to know it too. Chapter 830. Nuwa knew that Fong Qingshan had obtained the 9 Jodion star catalog and might understand a part of the Jodion star formation. It was also because of this reason that she agreed to lend the Buddhist sect a hand. She wanted to teach Fong Qingshan a lesson and let him know that it was not so easy to take the demon race's things. However, she did not expect that Fong Qingshan would be able to master the Jotion star formation in such a short period of time with the help of the 9 remnant maps. After Dijun and Tai Yi, the Jodion star formation was almost lost, just like the Great Divine Fiend formation. Only the Kuan Peng knew a little about it, and Fushi might know a little too, but they were all missing arms and legs. As for the current heavenly court, apart from having the primordial galaxy, they did not know the formation at all. They could not use the Jodion star perfectly. As for the Jotion star formation in Luya's mind, he kept it a secret, so no one knew about it. Looking at the scene before her, Nuwa seemed to have returned to the time when the ancient lich demon dominated the world. She saw Dijun and Tai Yi setting up the Jodion star formation. She saw the demon race flourishing, and even the saints had to retreat. No, the demon race's formation must not fall into the hands of outsiders. After the ancient great sorcerer and demon war, Dijun and Tai Yi died, leaving behind the witch-slaying sword, the bell of the East Emperor, and many other treasures of the demon race. However, Nuwa did not get any of them back. This time, she could not let the Jodion star formation fall into the hands of outsiders again. As the orthodox demon race, she would not. It would be a joke if word got out. When she came back to her senses, Nuwa wanted to personally take away the Jotion star formation. However, good and evil would always be rewarded. It was just that it came sooner or later. As soon as she moved, the primordial Lord of Heaven blocked her way and asked with a faint smile, "Junior sister Nuwa, where are you going? Get out of my way," Nuwa said with an embarrassed expression. "Move aside." The primeval Lord of Heaven sneered. "What kind of place do you think my hollow jade temple is? Are you in the back garden of the imperial palace? How dare you come and go as you please? How shameless of you." Looking at the cold gleam in the primordial Lord of Heaven's eyes, as though he was about to make a move at the slightest disagreement, Nuwa could only suffer in silence. He picked up the heaven and earth cauldron and the red embroidered ball in his hands and put them down. "Junior sister, it's better for you to stay here and take a good look. After all, Daozu said that saints are not allowed to take action. Yuanshi Tianzuan looked at Goddess Nviwa, who wanted to make a move, but had no choice but to restrain herself. Finally, he got his revenge. There was no need to mention the sourness in his heart, so he said calmly. However, the Pangu banner in his hand swayed gently, as if he still hoped that Nuwa would make a move so that he could take the opportunity to teach her a lesson. Nuwa held the heaven and earth cauldron and the red embroidered ball. She struggled for a while and finally could not help but sigh. Her skills were not as good as others. Not to mention that in terms of spiritual treasures and cultivation, she was not as good as the primordial Lord of Heaven. She was also helpless when he used her previous method to hold her back. Not to mention Nuwa and the primordial Lord of Heaven. In the Dachi sky, Laozi and Juni were also very surprised that Fang Qingshan knew the Zhodian star formation. However, Laozi was happy to see this situation, while Zhuanti and the primordial Lord of Heaven were very worried. Alas, it's fate. Magical sense is no match for heaven. Both of them sighed deeply. They did not want to take action in person like Nuwa, because they knew it was just wishful thinking. Of course, Fang Qingshan did not know that his Zhoutian star formation had almost caused a big stir in the desolation, and even Nuwa almost had to deal with it herself. However, even if he knew, there was nothing he could do. If he did not use the Zhoutian star formation, he could only use the thunderclap flag. Compared to the Zhoutian star formation, the thunderclap flag shocked them even more. Buzz! Stars fall. Fang Qingshan stood on the timeless arc and shouted softly. The Thunder Emperor raised his arm and shot out a palm of thunder, shaking the formation. In an instant, the stars in the sky started to move like fireflies. They were mottled and glowed brightly. It was really like the sky was a chessboard and the stars were pawns. The stars intertwined and weaved into a net. Countless bright rainbow lights whistled through the sky. The starlight condensed and became unusually thick, turning into a large, dazzling nebula. The sticky, almost liquefied starlight surged and filled the sky. In an instant, the stars moved and gave birth to an unparalleled power, like a river flowing into the sea, gathering and forming a majestic torrent of power. Although it did not reach the level of a mixed essence saint, it did not have the blessing of the primordial starry sky, the Zhoutian star banner, and 360 zenith heaven golden immortals. Even so, it almost reached the limit of a sage-to-be and could be called a secondary sage. With a huge power that could split the sky and earth, it fell with a loud bang. This formation seemed to turn the world upside down. Wherever the stars went, the entire void instantly broke. Of course, it did not mean that the power of the Zhoutian star formation was enough to break the chaotic space. Not to mention that it had not reached the level of a mixed essence. Even if it had, it would not be easy to break the chaotic space. The reason why the void was broken was that the formation had formed a world of its own. However, it was also because of this that its power increased by 30%. After all, the power of space was the top law. Space cracks and space collapses were not inferior to the power of the falling stars. With a loud bang, the starry sky shook. Thousands of stars burst out at the same time, and the universe shook. This seemed to be the most dazzling brilliance between heaven and earth. It was so brilliant and dazzling. Since the formation had been opened and could not be broken, the endless stars would never stop. In the blink of an eye, thousands of stars condensed and filled the sky, wave after wave. Just as the stars fell, under the conversion of the thunder-gathering pagoda and the output of the eternal pool of thunder, more stars formed and continued to fall, repeating the cycle. For a time, the entire formation world was in chaos. Earth, fire, water, and wind constantly emerged, crazily ravaging and destroying. As for the treasures of plenty and the others, the collision of the chaos demonic horn and the timeless arc almost killed Daipankara. They were furious and did not dare to hold back. They worked together and went all out. Sure enough, although the timeless arc was powerful, it still had its limits and could not defy the heavens. Under their all-out attack, the timeless arc was on the verge of collapse, and it was not far from being suppressed. However, they did not expect that an accident would happen again. They originally thought that the Chaos Demonic Horn was Feng Qingshan's trump card, but they did not expect that his limit would be like a sponge that would be squeezed out again. Moreover, it was actually one of the three great formations of the Desolation Formation, the Zodiac Star Formation, that was almost lost. Because they did not expect it, it was difficult to guard against it. After being shocked, it was already wishful thinking to want to escape. The autumn wind was bleak, and today was another world. The scenery in front of them changed, and they had already stepped into a familiar yet strange space. Chapter 831. The starry sky was vast and boundless. Apart from things related to the stars, there was no one else. No one was surprised by this. Everything that fell into the array formation would change with a single thought from the master of the array formation. Why could the array formation allow the weak to fight the strong and defeat the many? First of all, if one fell into the array formation, they would be suppressed by the array formation. The more powerful the array formation, the weaker one's cultivation and the greater the suppression. In addition, fighting in the array formation was like fighting against the entire world. The Tao of array formations was the Tao of heaven and earth. It took advantage of the weather, secretly plotted against the terrain, and turned the rotten into the magical. In this way, the weak could naturally fight the strong. As for defeating the many with the few, it was because no matter how many people fell into the array formation, they would be separated and have to fight alone. In this way, they could defeat the many one by one, turning passivity into initiative. However, the situation of the people who fell into the array formation was different. In the Tao of array formations, no matter how powerful an array formation was, it was still a transformation or a fusion of the basic array formations. For example, the 10,000 Immortal Array was formed by the combination of the Tai Chi Array, the Yin and Yang Array, the Four Beasts Array, and other array formations. The Zodiac Star Array was the same. Some people fell into the White Tiger Killing Array. This was an array formed by the 7 mansions of the west of the 28 mansions. It focused on killing and was extremely powerful. Some fell into the Minor Khanate 5 Elements Array. There were 5 directions on the earth and 5 stars in the sky. The 5 stars of the 5 elements evolved the Minor Khanate 5 Elements Array. Some fell into the Big Dipper 7 Stars Array, which used the 7 stars of Dubhi, Merak, Fekta, Megrez, Alioth, Mizar, and Alkaid as the foundation. Of course, many treasures in Kong Xian were the focus of attention. Many treasures fell into the Tai, Chi, Yin Yang Star Array. This array formation used the 2 main stars of the Sun and Moon as the foundation and evolved the Tao of Yin Yang Tai Chi. However, in the array formation, from time to time, raging flames would descend from the sky, burning the sky and the earth. This was not an ordinary fire, but the domineering true fire of the sun, the true fire of the lunar true fire. It was extremely ferocious, and ordinary spirit treasures would be melted into molten iron in less than an hour, or even directly evaporated. From time to time, frost, snow, and rain would freeze heaven and earth, creating a vast expanse of whiteness. Nothing could be seen, nothing could be heard. This wasn't blinding one's sight and hearing, but rather directly injuring one's primordial spirit. This was great Yin cold energy as well as ice within flames. Extreme Yin flourished Yang. Extreme Yang gave birth to Yin. Yin and Yang interchanged endlessly. As for Kong Xian, he had fallen into the great formation of Empress Myrtle Star. This formation used the North Pole's palace of Empress Myrtle Star as the eye of the formation. It evolved into a great formation that divided the 4 seasons of heaven and earth, adjusted the yin and yang of all things, gave birth to the purple aura of emperors, and could even strip away destiny. The true core of the Zodiac Star Formation was the North Star. He was in charge of the heavens, the earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars, commanding the gods of the mountains, rivers, and the 4 seasons. He ruled over the myriad heavens and the stars of the heavens. However, because of his relationship with Dijun and Tai, he had been forcibly stripped of a portion of his authority, resulting in the tripartite balance of power. So what if it's a Zodiac star formation? So what if it's a saint? The world is big, and there's nowhere I, Kong Xian, can't go. 5-color divine light cut. 5 feathers, 5 pillars, and 5 colors of divine light flashed. Countless mysterious laws of the great path of the 5 elements flowed wildly. It was as if a complete pillar of the great path of the 5 elements had appeared, and within it was a complete world of the great path of the 5 elements. They reinforced and countered each other, naturally giving rise to a mysterious heavenly sound, like the cry of a peacock. It spread out and resounded through the air. 5-color divine light flowed, and countless runes of the great path flashed. 5 brilliant beams of divine light shot out, crisscrossing towards the timeless arc, brushing past it without holding back. Regardless of whether it was the boundless starlight aura, the solidified stars, the emperor rules, or the star rules, they were all swept away without being able to resist. Anything within the 5 elements, even living things, would be instantly swept away by the divine light and sucked clean. Kong Xian's 5-color divine light also formed its own space and world. Everything that was swept away would immediately be suppressed, ground, crushed, and transformed into the power of the 5 elements to enhance the 5-color divine light. Ba, although the Zodiac star formation is not bad, it still depends on who is using it. Break. Many treasures chanted a Buddhist mantra. A golden palm descended from the sky like heaven and earth, slapping towards the timeless arc domineeringly. Under this palm, endless sharpness and power shattered the air, the world shook, and the sun and moon lost their light. It was as if the entire world was going to be destroyed. Under this palm, everything would be destroyed. This was a case of overwhelming strength. No matter what kind of formation it would just sweep over it. Just like Pangu, he used strength to break technique and Tao. Originally, the Great Path of Strength was not even at the top of the high-level Great Paths, let alone the top Great Paths. However, that was only because it was more difficult to master compared to fate, karma, time, and space. Once he truly grasped it, even if it was not like how Pangu used 1 Tao to break 10,000 Tao, its power was also imaginable. At this moment, it was not just many treasures in Kong Xian. The others also used their mystical abilities, numinous treasures, and various trump cards. After all, just the name of the Zodiac star formation alone made them not dare to let their guard down. If I don't enter hell, who will? I swear not to become a Buddha until hell is empty. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva used his great aspiration as a guide and used the power of merit to create a boundless hell, purifying countless evil spirits. Whirling world, glaze pure land, Bodhi forest, lotus sea. The medicine Buddha and Maitreya used the 6 bamboo of tranquil purity and the divine pestle respectively to conjure the Bodhi bliss formation of the Buddhist League at the same time. This formation was conjured from the Bodhi wood and the 12th grade golden lotus, and it had both offense and defense. Although its offensive and defensive capabilities were not at the peak, it was still a top-notch formation. 10 suns rise to the sky, sky patrol formation, golden crow refines the sky. What Luya used was a formation bestowed by the heavens after the 10 brothers were born. A Fusang tree appeared behind his head. 10 vivid and lifelike balls of light slowly rose into the air. The cries of the golden crow caused everyone's hearts to beat wildly and their faces to pale. Both the sky and the ground were golden in color, and the 10 shining suns hung in the air like suns. For a time, apart from the 10 suns, everything else, be it the stars, the starlight, or the space, was reduced to ashes. At that instant, the entire place was in an uproar as both sides executed their moves. The entire formation was rumbling vigorously as a series of explosions took place like a tide, resulting in a terrifying battle cries echoing in the surroundings. Endless murderous aura swept out from the chaos like a tide. For a moment, one could hear the cries of countless ghosts and gods. The battle had reached its climax. Although they had already left the desolation world, and even left the inner primal chaos and entered the outer primal chaos. However, this fluctuation still alarmed the entire desolation. It was extremely terrifying. Chapter 832. At the beginning of the battle and the chaos, no one knew about it except for Junti and Yuhua. After all, the Buddhists cared about their reputation. The sages plotted against them, and the experts of the Lane Temple were all sent out to deal with a second-generation golden immortal from the Ren school. Those who knew about it were, because of the timeless Arkansas. Those who didn't know what to say. However, as time went by, the battle became more and more intense. Although it was deep in the chaos, it still shook the desolation. All the sage-to-be could feel the battle in the chaos. Those below the sage-to-be could feel the trembling in their hearts, even if they couldn't see it. Those who didn't know would think that it was a battle between sages. What a great Jodian star array. I didn't expect someone after June to be able to set it up completely. Moreover, it doesn't need to draw the primordial stars. The timeless arc is really terrifying. Even June, Tai, was probably only at this level all those years ago. He actually trapped Duo Bao and the others within it. This power is truly terrifying. In the Jade Pool, the Jade Emperor looked envious once again. But this time, it wasn't because the country was in trouble, but because of the power of the timeless arc and the Jotian star array. Not to mention him, even the Queen Mother was tempted. With the Jotian star array, the heavenly court would truly have the power to suppress the three realms if the sages didn't come out. But so what if they were tempted? If the sages didn't make a move, who could be a match for Feng Qingshan? After today, if Feng Qingshan could win, he would have to give up his position as the #1 person below the sages. And even if Feng Qingshan lost, it would be a glorious defeat, just like how sect leader Tong Tian fought against 4 people at the Boundary Tablet Pass. Moreover, even if Feng Qingshan lost, his life wouldn't be in danger. He might not even be suppressed. How could I allow anything to happen to such a talent? Damn it. How can he have the complete Jodian star array? And he can do it without the help of the primordial stars? Could it be the work of the heavenly lord of Tao and virtue? In the North Sea, Kuan Peng thought to himself with a gloomy expression, as expected of the direct disciple of Ren school. The great Taoist Master Xiandu is not weaker than Duo Bao. This person is even better than him. It's not impossible for him to surpass him. In the 5th manner, Zhen Yuanzi looked at the chaos and could not help but sigh. In particular, the timeless arc was a treasure that led straight to primordial chaos. With him around, everyone would have to look up to him. Zhen Yuanzi could not help but feel envious. It had been so many years since he started cultivating in the primeval age, but his cultivation had remained stagnant with no hope of breaking through. If it weren't for the fact that the timeless arc couldn't be taken away, even with his temperament, it was inevitable that he would have come up with some devious ideas. I didn't expect that the Jotian star formation could reappear in the human world after ancient times. It's a pity that the Wu people's divine beings' killing formation can't be found. In the North Continent, in Pan Gu's main hall, Xing Tian, who did not have a head, had nipples as his eyes and his navel as his mouth, could not help but feel depressed. After the great ancient sorcerer and demon war, the sorcerers had retreated in defeat. However, although the situation of the demon clan was not as good as before, it was much better than the situation of the Wu people. After all, the demon clan still had a saint. Apart from some great demons in the North Continent, many elites of the demon clan had either been taken in by the Buddhist sects or taken in by the sect master of heaven. Now, they were doing well. What about the Wu people? Apart from a portion of them who had gone to the netherworld, they could only hide near the Pan Gu's main hall. Without Mount Buzhou, they had lost their foundation. Fortunately, there was still the netherworld formed by the Lady of Earth. Otherwise, it would be difficult for the Wu people to stay in the desolation. In the Blood Sea, a trace of greed flashed in Mingi's eyes. If he could obtain this array and replace the demon god with the blood god, they would be able to communicate telepathically. Even without the star banner or the Khanate cardinal treasure, it would be easy for him to turn the Buddhist sect's defense into offense. Regardless of what the others thought, after trapping Duo Bao and the others in the Zhoutian star array, Fang Qingshan immediately felt much more relaxed. That was because after falling into the array, they were separated by Fang Qingshan and could not join forces. Naturally, the pressure on the timeless arc and the array was much weaker. Moreover, after falling into the array, they would be suppressed by the array and would not be able to unleash 70% of their strength. Most importantly, Fang Qingshan could defeat them one by one. Apart from Duo Bao and Kong Xian, who else could fight him head-on? Without help, it was only a matter of time before they were defeated and captured after falling into the array. The most important thing was that they could not find the array core. It was simply wishful thinking to break the array. Unless one had the cultivation level of a saint or learned from Zhu Wu and used an array to break the array. Otherwise, the best outcome would be to find a flaw in the array formation and escape. Of course, so what if they found the array core? With the timeless arc as the array core, as long as Duo Bao and the others did not join forces, one or two people would be completely useless. Next, the first person Fang Qingshan had to deal with was Luya. That was because Fang Qingshan realized that this guy was actually very familiar with the Zhoutian star array. When Fang Qingshan was not paying attention, he actually slowly approached Duo Bao. Once they successfully joined forces, Fang Qingshan would be in trouble. After all, looking at Luya, it was very likely that he knew where the array core was. Once he led the way, everyone gathered and came to the array core. Wouldn't the Zhoutian star array be a decoration? Although Fang Qingshan did not know that there was a complete Zhoutian star array in his mind, he could guess a thing or two. At this moment, he thought of something. In a Zhoutian star array, there were square arrays of stars and Zhoutian stars that emitted a dazzling brilliance, appearing one after another like bamboo shoots after the rain. The Treasurefall coin, the Nirvana bridge, the Death Scythe, the Passing Water Lamp, the Great Void Armor, the Nine Bends Yellow River Array Diagram, and even the Eternal Barracks appeared one by one, combining with the various arrays and exerting 200% to 300% of the power. Rumble. Countless colliding sounds were like the ringing of the East Emperor Bell, echoing in the array space and even spreading outside the array formation, in the chaos, in the desolation. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, light, darkness, ice, wind, and thunder. Time, space, cause and effect, fate. The Zhoutian star array evolved from 1 to 10,000, and dazzling fireworks rose one after another, appearing out of thin air continuously, creating something out of nothing. It was as if the heavens and earth were being split apart. With an overbearing divine might, it swept out in all directions wantonly. Of course, the sudden eruption of the array formation was most important to hold Kong Xian and the rest back, so that Fang Qingshan could be free to deal with Luya. However, stars fell, exploded, and the endless brilliance swept across the surroundings. The entire void was constantly distorted, torn, shattered, and collapsed. It was a horrifying scene of destruction. Damn it, River Mountain map. When Luya saw the power of the stars that covered the sky and earth like a vast ocean, his expression changed instantly. He felt an almost fatal threat from these stars. Chapter 833. Because Luya had the complete formation map of the Zhoutian star formation in his mind, he thought, as Fang Qingshan had guessed after the initial shock, he would immediately look for Duo Bao and the rest, then work together with them. He would lead the way to the formation eye. As long as the formation eye was destroyed, the formation would collapse on its own. Unfortunately, within the grand formation, Fang Qingshan was like the heavenly Tao. Nothing could escape his eyes, no matter how big or small. Although Luya had deliberately concealed it and seemed to have moved coincidentally, it did not escape Fang Qingshan's eyes. There were coincidences in the world, but they were extremely rare and required great luck. Even if it was just in case, Fang Qingshan would make the first move to gain the upper hand. Of course, Luya did not know that Fang Qingshan had already discovered his little trick. However, the sudden explosion of the formation still put him in danger immediately. Although he had the formation map, he had never set it up personally. Moreover, the formation Dao was not rigid. It was ever-changing and could change at any time. To break the formation, not only did one need to know where the formation I was, but one also needed to rush over as fast as possible. Otherwise, the formation would change in an instant and all efforts would be in vain. Seeing that Luya was about to get close to Duo Bao, the formation suddenly changed. The surrounding environment suddenly changed, followed by an unprecedented crisis. That feeling was so strong that Luya felt that he had returned to the great sorcerer and demon war when He shot the sun. The shadow of death shrouded him instantly. Without thinking, he immediately shook the stately painting. However, even with the treasure, Luya only lasted for a short while. Wow! Although the stately painting was powerful, Luya was not his owner after all. He was only borrowing it. He could not fully unleash its power. Moreover, this was a feast that Fang Qingshan had specially prepared for him. The power of the stars was overwhelming. It was as fast as a swan and came one after another. Even a stately painting could not completely digest it in time. Immediately, Luya vomited a mouthful of blood. In the jade-clear sky, the frosty Nuwa seemed to have sensed something, and a trace of anxiety flashed across her face. Her heart moved, and the map of mountains and rivers that was on the verge of collapse suddenly shone brightly, completely different from before. The painting of mountains and rivers was surrounded by thousands of rays of light and auspicious colors. Outside the painting, the prophecy of the Great Way surrounded it. Wuji gave birth to Taiji. Taiji transformed into yin and yang. Yin and yang evolved into three powers. Three powers became four images. Four images became five elements. Five elements became six harmonies. Six harmonies set the 7 stars. 7 stars came out of the 8 trigrams, and 8 trigrams connected the 9 palaces. The Hongjun Tiandao talisman was faintly visible in the painting, evolving into a small desolation. The 5-colored light illuminated the mountains, rivers, and the earth, while the 9-colored auspicious aura intimidated the entire universe. Boundless profundities, boundless good fortune, heaven and earth moved, the sun and moon changed color. The might of the supreme treasure was completely revealed. It turned into a black hole of ultimate ruin, sweeping towards the falling stars and even the shattered void. In an instant, the clouds dispersed and the rain stopped. Kaiche district became bright. Why would Juanti, Jin, Nuwa, and the others bestow such great treasures? Firstly, it was because these treasures were very powerful and could enhance their combat power. Secondly, it was because these treasures had been completely refined by them, and they nurtured a wisp of their divine sense. They could take advantage of this condition to fully display the power of the treasures. This was also equivalent to a trump card. Presumptuous, how dare you make a move in front of me? Nua's action instantly angered the primeval Lord of Heaven. He didn't expect that Nua would dare to play tricks under his nose. Did she really think that he wouldn't dare to make a move? Thinking of this, the primeval Lord of Heaven raised his eyebrows, and the tri-treasure scepter in his hand flew out and hit Nua fiercely. The primeval Lord of Heaven attacked in anger, and the heaven and earth changed color. Although he didn't shake the Pangu banner, the tri-treasure scepter in his hand was not weak at all. The reason why he didn't use the Panga flag was that he just wanted to punish Nuwa a little to warn her. He didn't really want to fight to the death with Nuwa. Plus, this was his jade-clear sky, and the Pangu banner was too powerful. If he made a move here, he would most likely destroy the training ground. The gains would not make up for the losses. Nuwa didn't dare to let down her guard. She quickly summoned the cauldron of heaven and earth above her head. Facing a saint, especially when this person's cultivation and spiritual treasures were more powerful than hers, Nuwa couldn't afford to be distracted. If she wasn't careful, she might lose face. Therefore, he retracted his consciousness. Without Nuwa's help, the painting of mountain and river seemed to have been hollowed out, and it instantly softened. Fangqing Shan, who was originally in doubt, saw this scene and knew that he had to take advantage of the situation to kill him. With a thought, the Zhoutian star spun, and gusts of strong wind formed out of thin air, swirling the power of billions of stars. The surging force whistled out, and whirlwinds were formed like tornadoes and tsunamis. Wherever the violent and cold whirlwinds passed, layers of space were torn apart, distorted, and shattered, and black holes of different depths appeared. An unparalleled pressure came, and the Zhoutian star was violently disturbed. The painting of mountain and river was hit by the endless starry storm, and it instantly fell. Damn it! Immortal Luya, who felt Lady Nua's help, couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. However, he didn't expect that the help would disappear even faster. Before he could even catch his breath, the painting of mountain and river was completely destroyed. But now was not the time to think too much, and he quickly summoned the sun and moon wheels. There were two half-moon-shaped wheels, one of which had a fuso tree holding a three-legged golden crow. It spread its wings and looked like it was about to fly, exuding Kanate Taiyang Qi. The other wheel was a moon laurel tree holding a moon jade rabbit. It was very mysterious, exuding endless Kanate Taiyang Qi. Both wheels were half-moon shaped, like a curved bow, and faintly resonated with each other. When combined, it formed a full moon. Like Tai Chi, the wheels of sun and moon were the ultimate treasures born from the stars of extreme yin and extreme yang. They were ordinary Kanate spiritual treasures, similar to the sun and moon pearls and the Nirvana bridge. But once combined, they were like the Book of Luo and river painting, and their power was comparable to the top 10 Kanate spiritual treasures. Yin and yang combined, and Tai Chi was born. Although they were not specialized defensive spiritual treasures, they were completely refined. However, because he had completely refined it, its defensive power was a little stronger than the stately painting that he had summoned earlier. Immortal Luya's mood did not improve at all. Ding, ding, ding. The starry storm was extremely violent, and when it collided with the sun and moon wheels, it exploded on the spot. Sparks flew like a volcano eruption, and the overwhelming starlight instantly drowned Immortal Lu. Countless crisp sounds of metal clashing rang out like raindrops. It was very terrifying. The reason why Immortal Luya first took out the painting of mountain and river was because he pinned his hopes on Yuhua. But he didn't expect that the mountain would collapse, the water would flow, and people would walk. He had no choice but to summon the sun and moon wheels. Chapter 834. There was a limit to one's strength. Immortal Liao was not Duobao or Kong Xian. Although he was not bad, he was still powerless against the suppression of a peerless array formation like the Zhoutian star array. Not to mention the fact that he was no longer in his peak condition when fighting with Fangqing Shan. Now that he was in the array formation, he was naturally suppressed. In addition, he could not replenish his spiritual energy at all. He could only enter but not exit. The array formation had an endless stream of eternal lightning pool. Under such circumstances, not long after, he could not hold on anymore. A moment of carelessness and his dermic powers could not keep up. The old power had just been used up, but the new power had yet to be generated. He only had time to let out a scream before he was sent flying by the power of the stars like a ragged sack. Following that, the starlight wrapped around Immortal Luya and tied him up. With a pull, he was kept in the timeless arc and suppressed. The sun and moon wheels, the immortal slaying flying saber, and even the stately painting were brought back. In the jade, clear sky, Nuwa, who was originally confronting the heavenly lord of primordial beginning, used the stately painting to sense that Immortal Luya was being suppressed. Fortunately, his life was not in danger. Although she was angry, she could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Immortal Luya was not only the Buddha, but also the crown prince of the demon race. She had also watched him grow up. It was not just because of benefits, but also because of friendship. If anything happened to Immortal Luya, she would definitely not let it go. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan knew the time and only suppressed Immortal Luya. Since Immortal Luya had already been defeated and captured, coupled with Randang and the Zhodian Star Array, the defeat of Duo Bao and the others was a foregone conclusion. She did not have to work hard anymore. Hence, she slowly retracted her aura, showing her weakness. When the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning saw that, he knew what was going on. He could not help but sneer, but did not provoke Niwa. Just as Immortal Luya was being suppressed, the others, except for Duo Bao and Kong Xian, were all in a sorry state. However, Fang Qingshan did not specifically target them. He used more than 70% of his power to restrain Duo Bao and Kong Xian and suppress Luya. On top of that, they weren't weaklings to begin with. Therefore, even though they were in a slightly sorry state, with their robes and hair cut off and even small wounds appearing on their bodies, they were still able to withstand the attacks. His body was covered in blood. Actually, it wasn't as serious as it seemed. However, even so, all of their faces turned extremely ugly. The reputation of the three ultimate formations of desolation was well known to them. Naturally, he did not think that the power of the formation was limited to just this. Now that it had just been activated, they were already in a sorry state. They did not know that Fang Qingshan was focusing most of his energy on restraining Duo Bao and suppressing Luya. Otherwise, their expressions would have been even uglier. Of course, he had to face reality whether his expression was ugly or not. After suppressing Immortal Luya, Fang Qingshan turned to deal with Xidagarba and the rest. As for Duo Bao and Kong Xian, these two tough bones, they naturally had to be left at the last moment and suppressed with all their might. Now, he had to cut off the wings. Fang Qingshan used the same trick again. Although Xidagarba and the rest were not bad, they were unable to fight back against the suppression of the Zhodian Star Formation at all, just like Immortal Luya. Even Mithriya and Apothecary, who had 6 bamboo of tranquility and the divine pestle, had no room to struggle at all. Under Laozi's watchful eyes, Kundi and Enin had no chance to be distracted to help them. Not long after, they followed in Immortal Luya's footsteps. As Xidagarba and the rest were defeated and captured one after another, Duo Bao, as the leader of the Buddhist sect, immediately sensed it. Coupled with the fact that the power of the formation was getting stronger and stronger, he knew what was going on just by thinking about it. He and Kong Xian were really furious, and their faces were as black as ink. No one expected Fang Qingshan to have so many tricks up his sleeves. He even knew the battle of the Zhodian Star that was almost lost. Furthermore, without the star banner, the book of the Luo River diagram, the Zhodian Star, and even without the support of the formation, he could successfully set up the formation. Furthermore, it was actually so powerful. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will always be victorious. Due to the miscalculation of Fang Qingshan's strength and trump cards, they failed miserably. Almost all the experts of the Buddhist sect had come out, but they were besieged by an ant that was not even a grand heavenly realm and ended up in such a state. They had lost Dipankara, Immortal Luya, Xidagarba, and the rest. This was no longer a slap in the face, but a trampling on the ground. If word got out, they would lose all face. However, what could they do even if they were mocked by the world? At the end of the day, they were not as skilled as others. Desolation was not a good place. The law of the jungle, the strong preyed on the weak, and the fist was the hard truth. Why did the Buddhist sect rise? Was it really because of compassion? It was just that there were many experts suppressing others to the point that they could not breathe. Naturally, they would soar. Looks like if I don't show my true abilities today, I'll really be looked down upon. While Duo Bao and Kong Xian were in different parts of the formation, their minds were connected, and a vicious glint flashed in their eyes. It's not copper, iron, or steel. It was once hidden under Mount Meru. If I don't refine it in reverse, won't there be water and fire to temper it? Immortal slaying is sharp. Immortal slaying is dead. Immortal trapping is red everywhere. Immortal slaying is full of changes, and the grand heavenly immortal's clothes are stained with blood. As Duo Bao chanted, the immortal slaying sword formation was unfolded. It was like the rising sun leaping out of the water, the beginning of the world, and thunder rumbled. A huge roar burst out in an instant, and streaks of sword chi shot into the sky. The sky was filled with sword shadows, and half the sky shook in an instant. For a moment, the sky was filled with colorful flowing lights, so dazzling that it was almost impossible to look at. It seemed to have turned into a world of sword chi, so much so that even the Jotian star formation could not hide its elegance. The immortal slaying sword formation was the sect guarding formation of the GS sect. As the eldest disciple of the GS sect, Duo Bao was naturally taught it, and he had even personally presided over it. In the years that he abandoned Taoism and entered Buddhism, he had been thinking about how to reappear the brilliance of the immortal slaying sword formation. The formation diagram was in his hands, but it was missing the most crucial four swords. For this, Duo Bao used the power of Buddhism to plunder the world. With the wishes of all living beings as the foundation, he fused many heavenly and earthly treasures, and even fused his own Tao. With his own ability to refine treasures, he finally created 4 top-notch acquired spiritual treasure swords. He used the Tao of supreme purity to enter immortal slaying, the Tao of grand purity to enter immortal slaying, the Tao of karma to enter immortal trapping, and the art of nirvana to enter immortal slaying. Although it was not comparable to the 4 immortal slaying swords, it had restored at least 50% of its power. It was only because he was the number 1 person below the saint, and he did not need any spiritual treasures. He could suppress everything with his physical body alone. He was also the ancestor of Buddhism, and he had many experts under him. Therefore, although the immortal slaying sword formation was successfully restored, he did not have the chance to use it. This time, if Fang Qingshan had not forced him too hard, he would not have used it. Although the immortal slaying sword formation and the Zhodian star formation are both the 3 great formations, we have never had the chance to collide. This time, I want to see who is better. Chapter 835. At the beginning of primordial times, at the beginning of yin and yang, combine the 5 elements and transform the universe. Almost at the same time, when Duo Bao brought out the immortal slaying sword formation, Kong Xian also chanted a mantra, and waves of primordial sound waves spread in all directions. In a flash, an invisible force slowly dissipated from his body. As he raised his hand and drew a line in the void, the gung metal, it would Kuei water, leaf fire, and Ho earth innate chi of the 5 elements poured out and turned into a 5-pointed star that fell down. The thick 5-element sky pillar, like the immortal slaying sword chi, suddenly shot up into the sky and instantly tore apart the surrounding power of the Zhoutian star, forming a formation, space, and world in the Zhoutian star formation. The connate formation of 5 elements. This was not the minor connate formation of 5 elements that Fang Qingshan obtained from the 5-element spirit pearl, but the 5 elements formation that was almost comparable to the real connate formation of 5 elements. Logically speaking, this formation could only be obtained by gathering the connate 5 elements flags or the 5 elements of the connate spirit roots. How did Kong Xian get it? The reason was simple. First of all, Kong Xian's 5-color divine light had the minor connate formation of 5 elements, just like the 5-element spirit pearl. Secondly, Buddhism had the Bodhi wood, which contained the connate gung metal formation, and the green lotus flag, which contained the connate Ewood formation. Most importantly, Kong Xian had obtained a top-level connate spirit root, the 5 needles pine. It was also one of the top 10 connate spirit roots of the desolation, and it was the only one that had all 5 elements. Although it was not as good as the Bodhi wood and the other 5 elements, it was more comprehensive. There was also a minor connate formation of 5 elements inside. Kong Xian was a genius. Combining these incomplete 5 elements formations, he created a grand connate formation of 5 elements. Of course, like the immortal slaying sword formation of Duo Bao, its power was greatly reduced because it was not the original. But even with only 5 layers, it was still better than the 9 bends Yellow River Formation, 10 Ultimate Formation, Bodhi Ultimate Formation, and other top Kane formations. Although the Desolation Formation was known as one of the 3 great formations, there were many formations that could rival them. For example, the 3 talents Great Array contained in the 3 books of Heaven, Earth, and Man, the Green Lotus Great Array contained in the 5 Lotus Thrones, the legacy of Sanqing that was comparable to the legacy of Zhu Wu, the Celestial Fiend Great Array, and the Great Innate 5 Elements Great Array laid out by the Innate 5 flags. All of them were not weaker than the 3 ultimate arrays of Desolation. However, the power of these formations was too great. Hongjun Tian Dao did not allow it, and its luck was not good, so it was difficult for it to appear completely. As for the Immortal Vanquishing Sword Array, it was used by the Fiend Ancestor to compete with Daozu. The Zhoutian Star Formation was given by Hongjun Tian Dao to the Demon Clan to fight against the Wu people. The Divine Beings Killing Formation was the trump card that Pangu had left for the Wu people. The other formations did not have such good luck, so they were not well known. In the past, Kong Xian's 5-color Divine Light was powerful. However, once he encountered someone whose cultivation was much higher than his, not only would it be useless, but it would also easily backfire. But things were different now. He had comprehended the major 5 elements Khanate formation. He used the Great Innate 5 Elements Great Array to set up the formation with a 5-color Divine Light and the 5 Needles Pine Tree as the core of the formation. If Xuandi's golden body was swept into the formation again, it would not be easy for him to get out. The 5-colored pine tree stood tall, and the 5-colored Divine Light flowed. Suddenly, it could be seen that the innate true chi of white, green, black, red, and yellow condensed and turned into 5 beams of divine light that were endless. Not only did they repel the Zhoutian star, but they also constantly destroyed the power of the stars and turned it into the power of the 5 elements to strengthen the formation. After saying so much, from a moment Duo Bao and Kong Xian took out the array formation to the formation, it was actually just a matter of the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. In the blink of an eye, the formation was completed. Kong Xian stood with his hands behind his back. When he looked up, he seemed to be able to look at Fang Qingshan, who was at the eye of the formation. He murmured to himself. It said that there are only 3 supreme formations in the desolation. I like to see if the Grand 5 Elements Killing Formation can compare to them. The Fairy Slaying Sword Formation. The Grand 5 Elements Killing Formation. As soon as the Zhoutian Star Formation appeared, the battle between Fang Qingshan and the others attracted the attention of almost all the experts in the desolation. They had thought that it was over. The dust had settled. After all, there was no one in the untainted land who had not heard of this great formation. Moreover, many of them had gone through the era of the liches and demons, and had even experienced it themselves. Naturally, they knew its power better. However, they did not expect that the story would be full of twists and turns again. Duo Bao and Kong Xian had actually each set up a peerless grand formation. Xinyuanzi and the others couldn't help but gasp in astonishment. There are talents in every generation, and the new generation replaces the old. Seeing this, Kuan Peng, Fuxi, and the other experts of the older generation could not help but sigh. Not to mention them, even Fang Qingshan, who was involved in the battle, did not expect this either. He had thought that once the Zhoutian Star Formation appeared, even if he could not win easily, he would at least be invincible. However, he did not expect that Duo Bao and Kong Xian, who were favored by the heavens, each had such a trump card. It was really unexpected and amazing. However, not only was Fang Qingshan not afraid, but he also felt thirsty. His heart was beating like a drum, and his blood was flowing like waves. This was the excitement of meeting a worthy opponent. Kill, kill, kill. At this point, there was no need to test the waters. Since they had shown their trump cards, they naturally had a win in one round. 4 swords and 1 kill, trap, and kill. Duobao said softly. The immortal slaying formation rolled up, and the four swords collided with a loud bang, bursting out a monstrous sword chi. In a flash, the four swords disappeared, leaving only a peerless sword of killing. This was the essence of Duobao's great way through the integration of three schools. As soon as this sword appeared, the Qingping sword in sect leader Tongtian's hand, the Yuan-Tu Avicii sword in Mingyi's hand, the three talents sword in Lu Er's hand, and the four immortal slaying swords in clan leader Tongtian's hand all vibrated. Cut! The sword fell. It was tens of thousands of meters long, and there was a sonorous sword sound. A sacred sword momentum came out from the inside, and golden divine chains intertwined like primordial divine dragons. The big sword fell, but it was not fast. It was like paddling, and the sound of waves could be faintly heard. But this was just an illusion. The sword came out of its sheath and fell in front of Fang Qingshan. Because it was too fast, it left a shadow in the air. As for the sound of water, it was the sound of the sharp sword cutting through various laws and tearing the galaxy. Following an indescribable track, the immortal slaying sword fell firmly toward Fang Qingshan. Turn! At the same time as Duobao, Kong Xian pointed at the great primordial five elements formation. The five pine needles shook, and the five-color divine light was like a bird flying into the forest. But gorgeous sparks bloomed, like the most brilliant fireworks under this starry sky. In the extreme brilliance, a stone plate that suppressed time and space appeared as if it was real. Chapter 836. The millstone was colorful and radiant. It was densely engraved with mysterious runes that were as thin as dust, emitting an ancient and mighty aura that seemed to be able to penetrate through the past and present. Once the primordial chaos was mentioned, it would reinforce and restrain each other. The five elements would reinforce and multiply endlessly. Its defense would be unparalleled, and it would be invincible. It would destroy the world and be unparalleled in terms of killing power. It was not weaker than the other laws of attack. The millstone was divided into two parts, one above and one below. The millstone on the top rotated clockwise. The one below rotated counterclockwise. A terrifying area of destruction was formed in the middle of the millstone. As it rotated, it seemed to be able to cause the entire Zhoutian star array to distort. The five-color divine light continued to bloom in the millstone, brushing everything. Together with the hole in the middle of the millstone, it could devour the world. Once the five-color divine light brushed against the center of the millstone, it would completely collapse, disintegrate, and grind, turning into the power of the five elements to strengthen the millstone. Great! Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan took a deep breath, knowing that the most critical moment had finally arrived. With a point of his finger, the entire heavenly cycle stellar formation suddenly shrunk. First, the 14,800 secondary stars fused into one. Then the 365 main stars fused together. Then the sun and moon fused together. And finally, it gathered above the Z-Way. The myriad of stars gathered at one point. It turned into a huge purple seal with different patterns engraved on all four sides of the seal. The east side was engraved with the rising and setting sun and moon. The south side was engraved with the four seasons. The west side was engraved with the calculation of heavenly secrets, and the north side was engraved with the transformation of chaos and the rebirth of spiritual energy. At the bottom were the 365 main stars and 14,800 subsidiary stars, which formed the Milky Way world. There seemed to be a strange Taoist rhyme circulating on it. The dense purple aura emitted the might of a dragon, causing the seal to naturally reveal an aura that could suppress heaven and earth. It seemed to carry the power of heaven and earth. Every move was the full force of the entire Zhoutian star array. Regardless of whether it was space-time, karma, or fate, they would all be suppressed by the seal. A sword, a millstone, and a seal. They took shape almost at the same time. The immortal slaying sword and the five elements millstone attacked the Jotion star seal from the front and back. The three supreme treasures formed by the three supreme formations clashed together. The power of the collision had already surpassed the limits of a quasi-sage and a quasi-sage. It had truly broken through the power of a primordial chaos saint. Fortunately, this was the primal chaos world, and the outer primal chaos at that. There was no need to worry about the desolation. Otherwise, before they could erupt, Daozu would appear and stop them. Then, both sides would be punished. Buzz! With a slight tremble, a huge black hole formed with the point of impact as the center, and it expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, a space was formed. Clear and turbid separated. Clear chi ascended to form the sky, while turbid chi descended to form the earth. It was unknown whether it was because the world was expanding too quickly, or because there was nothing to support it, or because of other reasons. A moment later, the space that was almost comparable to the boundless universe suddenly collapsed. Another wave of great destruction energy swept out, spreading in all directions. Even the sage's dojo in the middle of the chaos had no choice but to raise their treasures to defend themselves. He didn't want to be caught in the crossfire. After the collision, Jian, Mo, In, Duo Bao, Kong Xian, and Fong Qingshan, who was hiding in the timeless ark, were all sent flying. Poof! Even with Duo Bao's strong physical body and the defense of the treasure pagoda, he felt like his entire body was leaking blood. He stood in a pool of blood, his essence blood surging, his primordial spirit and was shaking violently, and his head exploding. He staggered and spat out a mouthful of blood, his face slightly pale. Fong Qingshan wasn't the worst off. Although his cultivation level was the lowest, he had the Great Void Divine Armor, the protection of the Timeless Ark, and the Xianyuan Water Controlling Flag. In addition, he was a person who had cultivated his body successfully. Under the layers of weakening, coupled with the E-wood source of the World Tree, the Triple Light, Divine Water, and other healing treasures, he was fine. Only Kong Xian was unlucky this time. This was because of the five-color Divine Light. With one move, he could dominate the entire world. Ordinary numinous treasures, and even ordinary connate numinous treasures, were nothing to him. As for high-level treasures, they either had owners or were elusive. In the past few years, apart from joining the Buddhist sect, his providence had increased greatly, and he had obtained a top-notch connate spirit root, the five-needle pine. He did not have any other top-notch numinous treasures. It was just that he seemed to have used up all his providence and never encountered any more opportunities. Moreover, he was a homebody. He stayed in his cave abode every day, either comprehending the great Tao or refining his mystical abilities. However, it might be because of this that although they were both crown princes, Liu could only be compared to Randang, while Kong Xian could be compared to Duo Bao. However, both success and failure were due to Xiao He. It was a pity that although Kong Xian was powerful, he hadn't reached the point where he didn't rely on external objects. Pangu still had the heaven-splitting axe, the 36-grade creation green lotus, and the creation jade plate. Zhuanti and Jieyin didn't have any treasures, so they were naturally suppressed by Sanqing of the mystic sect. If it was a normal day, or a weaker opponent, or even if the battle wasn't so intense, it would be fine even if he still had the five-color divine light. However, at this moment, his strength had already reached the level of a primordial chaos saint, and the five-color divine light wasn't on him. Therefore, Kong Xian had a hard time defending. Fortunately, although he hadn't cultivated the 8-9 arcane art or the 9 revolutions essence art, he was a natural divine beast, and his physical body was also very strong. He directly revealed his original form, a five-color peacock. Although he looked a little sorry, his feathers were dim, and he looked like a drenched chicken, he could still hold on for a while. After a single strike, there was no victor. Naturally, everyone was unwilling to give up halfway. At this point, with their willpower, no one retreated. After adjusting slightly and taking a deep breath, he gritted his teeth and continued to activate the treasure in his hand to smash towards the enemy. Of course, at this point, The reason why Duo Bao and Kong Xian were still unwilling to let go was not purely because of their pride. There was also a very important reason. It was rare to have opponents like this. To them, they usually held high positions and had high cultivation levels. Not to mention confirming the great Tao in battle, it was difficult to even have an ordinary spar. It was lonely at the top, and as lonely as snow. Fang Qingshan was only a golden immortal after all. He didn't have the trouble of being trapped in a realm and not being able to advance at all. At the level of Duo Bao and Kong Xian, they were basically standing at the peak of the quasi-saint realm and couldn't advance any further. Without a great opportunity, great luck, and great merit, it would be difficult to improve at the slightest, let alone break through. Xinyuanzi, Kuan Peng, Mingyi, and the others had experienced many years and were still outside the primordial chaos sect. Even after Fuxi reincarnated and borrowed the merit and luck of the human race, he still couldn't break through that thin layer. As for the great Taoist master Xiandu, even though he often gave him special treatment, he didn't gain much. Chapter 837. Without great opportunities, great providence, and great merit, there was only one way to make a breakthrough, and that was to fight a life and death battle. Between life and death, there was naturally great terror. With great terror, there would naturally be great opportunities. Perhaps they would touch that thread and have a sudden inspiration, allowing them to make a breakthrough. This was also why, despite how terrifying the tribulation was, many people still chose to go there despite knowing that it was dangerous. Firstly, avoiding the tribulation was just a temporary solution, not a permanent solution. Secondly, they wanted to face the difficulties head-on and overcome them. They wanted to use the tribulation to escape and survive. Although the three of them weren't fighting a life and death battle, it was close. Therefore, neither Many Treasures nor Kong Xian was willing to give up this opportunity. Although this kind of battle might not allow them to break through to the mixed essence realm, however, it was still much better than cultivating bitterly on a daily basis. It should be known that at their level, without such a fortuitous encounter, even the slightest bit of improvement would require painstaking effort. Again, the three of them shouted at the same time. Clang, 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 clang. One sword, one grind, one seal. They clashed once again. A series of metallic clangs rang out. Heaven and earth were created and destroyed in the chaos. Between life and death, it all depended on who could hold on first. The sharpness of the sword was fast, accurate, and ruthless, slaying immortals, slaying Buddhas, slaying gods, and slaying demons. Grind. If one went with the flow, one would waste time. If one went against, one would transcend. Between going with the flow and going against, one would kill everything. The huge seal flipped the sky, suppressed time and space, and destroyed all techniques. The supreme treasures condensed by the three great arrays clashed together. They were no weaker than connate treasures activated at full power, and they were killing treasures. Once, twice, thrice, the three of them didn't know how many times they clashed, but in the blink of an eye, the sounds of collisions were endless. At this moment, there was no longer victory or defeat in their hearts. There were only sparks of inspiration after each clash and their understanding of the great Tao. Forget about Fang Qingshan. He had not reached that level yet. Kong Xian and Many Treasures' eyes grew brighter and brighter. How many years had it been since he could feel himself improving at every moment? Unfortunately, the good times didn't last long. Crack! There was a slight sound, but it sounded like a thunderclap. However, a hair-like crack had appeared in the five-element millstone, and it was almost imperceptible. Kong Xian's expression changed drastically when he saw this. It wasn't just Kong Xian. Duo Bao's heart jerked as well, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. The reason for this was naturally because he wouldn't be able to persist for long once Kong Xian was defeated. This was not because of the desire to win or lose, but because the three of them were fighting, and the three of them were in perfect balance. If one of them was missing, the entire battle would collapse. But once it collapsed, regardless of victory or defeat, this rhythm of seemingly improving at every moment would no longer exist. As expected, their ominous premonition was quickly confirmed. With his strand of hair as the center, ripples spread out like water in a split second. In the span of a breath, after another collision, there was a loud bang. The five-element millstone was instantly shattered, turning back into the five-needle pine tree and the five-color divine light, which fell into Kong Xian's arms. Kong Xian was the first to retreat. In the end, Kong Xian didn't obtain the real major five-elements Kane formation. This formation was only perfected by him with his supreme talent, and there were still many inadequacies in it. In addition, he didn't have the formation diagram. Although he had the five-needle pine tree to suppress it, how could he compare to Duo, Bao, and many treasures? Fang Qingshan's Zhodian star diagram was refined by Di Jun with half of the demon race's power of desolation and fused with the timeless Arkansas. Duo Bao's immortal extermination formation diagram was created by Daozu, and the four treasured swords were also refined with the power of Buddhism. Therefore, Kong Xian's major five-elements Khanate formation was incomparable to Fang Qingshan and Duo Bao. In addition, it wasn't just because of the major five-elements Khanate formation, but also because he couldn't hold on anymore. Kong Xian didn't have any defensive treasures, and he didn't have the five-colored holy light with him. His physical body wasn't as strong as Duo Bao's either. There was no way he could withstand the continuous shock waves and the treasures. Phew! Seeing this, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but let out a long breath of turbid air that he had been holding in for a long time. If Kong Xian still didn't lose, he would probably be the one who couldn't hold on. After all, he was facing the attacks of Duo, Bao, and many treasures. If it wasn't for the Timeless Ark's fast recovery speed and continuous dermic powers, he wouldn't have been able to hold on at all. The millstone was broken, and the formation was broken. Not only did Kong Xian have to face the shockwaves from the treasures, but he also had to bear the backlash of the formation breaking. Moreover, Fang Qingshan and Duo Bao were still clashing at each other. The shockwaves were about to reach Kong Xian. Once that happened, Kong Xian would definitely die. Duo Bao couldn't even take care of himself, and he didn't have the energy to rescue him. A tragedy was about to happen. In the blink of an eye, all right, let's stop here. At the critical moment, a lotus platform appeared above Kong Xian's head, protecting him. Seeing that his safety was guaranteed, Kong Xian immediately breathed a sigh of relief, and he fainted. Freeze! Disperse! At the same time, two heavenly voices sounded. The immortal slaying sword and the Zhodian star seal that were about to continue colliding seemed to be frozen in time. Then, with a loud bang, they followed the footsteps of the five-elements millstone. Uft! Ugh! Duo Bao and Fang Qingshan couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Fortunately, the person who made the move was just right, and the two of them didn't get injured because of it. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, they felt relaxed. Then, the six sages, including the Grand Master of Heaven, appeared. The primordial Lord of Heaven and Laozi protected Fang Qingshan behind them. Zhuanti and Jin helped Duo Bao up and stood in front of Kong Xian. Niwa, the Grand Master of Heaven. However, everyone couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise in their eyes, especially for Fang Qingshan. They originally thought that there would be no suspense in the battle, but they didn't expect that there would be so many twists and turns. Moreover, there were actually 3 supreme formations, and the level of power had reached the level of a new mixed essence sage. If they had just broken through, they would probably be inferior to this kind of power. This was also why the sages had to retreat when the sorcerers and demons fought for hegemony. They watched as the 2 supreme treasures directly disintegrated and turned back into the immortal slaying sword array and the Zhodian star array, each shrinking back into the hands of their original owners. At this moment, something strange suddenly happened. However, a strange look flashed in Nua's eyes, and her heart moved. She triggered the stately painting. Just as the Zhodian star array was about to fall into the timeless arc, something came out of nowhere. However, the stately painting, which had been suppressed in the timeless arc by Fang Qingshan, suddenly broke out as if it had come out of nowhere. In the blink of an eye, it broke through the seal. The large painting unfolded, rolled towards the Jodion star array, and flew towards Nuwa. Chapter 838. How dare you? This sudden change had obviously caught everyone off guard. In particular, Laozi's face was as dark as ink. First, Qing Shan was schemed against, especially by a sage, and was besieged by many people. After all, he had been caught off guard and was caught off guard. Now, someone actually dared to deal with Fang Qing Shan in front of him. If he didn't seek justice, wouldn't such things happen more often in the future? Today, it was Fang Qing Shan. Tomorrow, it might be the great Taoist Master Xiandu. In the future, it might even be him. The Jodion star array was about to fall into Nuwa's hands. Once it fell into her hands, it would be wishful thinking to snatch food from the tiger's mouth. Just as Laozi was about to make a move, Fang Qing Shan took the initiative to attack. Explode. There was a soft, slightly weak sound. The Jodion star array diagram that had been swept away by the stately painting suddenly self-destructed without any warning. The Jodion star array diagram was an impressive treasure that had just been condensed. Its power had reached the primordial chaos level and was close to that of a Khanate killing treasure. One could imagine the power of its self-destruction. Boom! There was an explosion that was louder than the previous collision between Fang Qing Shan and the other two. The painting of mountains and rivers of the gods of earth and Vale was torn. Although Goddess Nviwa was a saint, it was impossible for her to snatch something from his hands like an old cat sniffing a salted fish. As for the self-destruction of a Jodion star array, it was not a true self-destruction. After being integrated into the Timeless Arc would not be destroyed. No matter how much damage the Eternal Unit suffered, it could be repaired. Therefore, after Nuwa made a move, before Laozi and the others could react, Fang Qing Shan directly put up a life-and-death struggle. Of course, the reason he dared to do that was because he would not really lose the array diagram. The most important reason was that Laozi was right in front of him. Otherwise, even if Fang Qing Shan was at his peak, he would not have dared to challenge the dignity of a saint, much less in his current state. After all, Nuwa was no longer a novice saint. Although he could unleash the power of the primordial chaos realm, he was just a slightly bigger ant in the eyes of others. The corners of Nuwa's mouth were slightly curled up as if victory was in her grasp. But now, her face was flushed, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. It was obvious that the explosion of the Jodion star formation had damaged the stately painting, so much so that it implicated the deity itself. Damn it! After so many years, this was the first time she was injured after becoming a sage. Nuwa was furious. Without thinking, she threw the red embroidered ball in her hand at Fang Qing Shan with all her might. I think the one who should die is you, Laozi said coldly. Previously, he snatched the Jodion star right in front of him. Now, he even dared to kill him. Did he really think that he was just a decoration? The Taiji diagram in his hand shook, and the golden bridge crossed the sky, instantly freezing the red embroidered ball in midair. Then, with a wave of his hand, the mysterious yellow, exquisite pagoda flew out and grew with the wind. In an instant, it turned into the size of a heavenly pillar and pressed down on Nuwa. Its power was even greater than the previous Jodion star seal. Although the mysterious yellow, exquisite pagoda was a famous defensive treasure, its attack power was not necessarily weak. Seeing this, Nuwa's expression changed. She couldn't even care about the red embroidered ball and Fang Qing Shan anymore. She quickly took out the heaven and earth cauldron and smashed it at the mysterious yellow pagoda. Clang! There was a loud sound of impact, like the ringing of a chaotic bell, suppressing the earth, wind, water, and fire. There was a burst of infinite light. Sages were fighting, and there was a move of treasures. The power was so great that it was completely incomparable to the previous small fight between Fang Qing Shan and the other two. Fortunately, those present were either sages or were protected by sages. Although the aftermath was powerful, it couldn't hurt them at all. Why? Does junior sister Nuwa think that my celestial sect of wonders is easy to bully? First, she blocked his door and activated the mountain and river map under his nose. Now that the situation was settled, she actually personally took action to snatch the treasure. She failed to snatch the treasure, but she still dared to make a move. She simply didn't put him and his eldest senior brother in her eyes at all. The primordial Lord of Heaven, who had regained his senses, was already ready to make a move with the Pangu banner and the 3 treasures Rui in his hands. What a pity! Nuwa sighed, and then she thought that she was weak in the end. The celestial sect of wonders had Sanqing, and the West had Zhuanti to guide them. She was the only one among the sages, and she was a woman. Even if she had treasures, even if she was the first to become a sage, in the end, she could only live in the chaos. Otherwise, Sai, although thousands of thoughts were running through her mind, she said with righteous indignation on the surface, "I'm just taking back something that belongs to my demon race." Hee, something that belongs to the demon race. Laozi sneered. This is simply the biggest joke in the world. Then should I ask Xianyuan and Fushi to return the witch-slaying sword and the river map to you as well? Or should I ask Hao Yin to return the heavenly court to you as well? Nuwa couldn't help but choke when she heard this. She couldn't say anything for a long time. Now that we've fought, it's time to settle the score. Laozi sneered and looked at Nuwa. I've given you face, but you don't want it. I'll let you off for now, but I'll deal with you in the future. He turned to look at Zhuanti, and his eyes flashed. I wonder how the two of you are going to settle this karma. Zhuanti looked at each other and saw bitterness in each other's eyes. This time, if they won, then no matter how they dealt with the aftermath, they would be able to do it calmly. However, the problem now was that they had broken the rules first and failed later. It seemed that they had no choice but to bleed. This was not only related to the face of the saints, but also because Xidagarba and the others were still in the hands of Fong Qingshan. How do you want to settle it, Celestial Venerable? Zhuanti asked dryly. The prosperity of Buddhism is unparalleled. Why don't we divide it into a layer of luck? Laozi said lightly. Impossible. Hearing Laozi open his mouth, whether it was Zhuanti or Zhuanti, they rejected it decisively without any hesitation. Taoist, let's change the condition. There was no room for negotiation in his tone. It seemed that if Laozi really insisted on this condition, they might immediately fall out with each other. They had suffered too much from the lack of luck. Speaking of it, it was a history of blood and tears. Because of the lack of luck, the treasures of heaven and earth in the West were taught to the East. Not only were there few, but the quality was also low. Because of the lack of luck, they could not obtain precious treasures, and even the spiritual mountains and blessed lands were few and weak. Because of the lack of luck, they had no choice but to take an unconventional approach when establishing a sect and becoming a saint. With the Great Aspiration Method, they first took a loan from Hongjun Tiandao. Due to the lack of luck, for a long time, the Buddhist sects were pressured by the Xianmen to the point of suffocation. Therefore, if they wanted to divide up the luck, it was like looking at the moon during the day. Don't even think about it. Back then, for the sake of Buddhism's luck, Zhuanti could even put down his dignity as a saint and beg for alms everywhere. They could even give up the position of the master of Buddhism and get many treasures. Not to mention now. Chapter 839. Hearing that, Laozi's face remained expressionless. However, his eyes grew colder as he stared indifferently at Zhuanti and Xiao Luo. Although Zhuanti and Xiao Luo felt a little awkward, they quickly put it away and stared at each other without avoiding each other. For a moment, the entire place fell silent. A strange glint flashed across Nuwa's eyes. She secretly encouraged Zhuanti and Xiao Luo, wishing that the world would not be in chaos. Sect leader Tong Tian was neither sad nor happy. After coming here, he did not show anything. It was as if he was just a witness. As for the final result, he didn't care at all. Of course, if the two sides were to fight, he would be happy to be an onlooker and watch them fight. The primordial Lord of Heaven, on the other hand, stood firmly on Laozi's side. Once the fight started, he would immediately join forces with Laozi to deal with Xuanti. Unfortunately, just as the atmosphere was becoming more and more solemn, Laozi slowly nodded his head. Xuanti and Yi Zichen could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. If possible, they really didn't want to fall out with him. Although she had expected that they would not fight, Niwa could not help but sigh regretfully. If the Xuanti duo were to fight with Laozi, he might even be able to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight to avenge himself. Since that's the case, let's change it, Laozi said expressionlessly. Hand over the azure lotus flag and the 10th grade golden lotus. Impossible. As soon as Laozi's voice fell, Xuanti once again shouted in exasperation. Xuanti's face turned red, and Jieyin's bitter face became even more miserable. They didn't expect that their father's demands would become even more severe. Are we really going to fight today? The two of them thought to themselves. It was just that they really didn't have the strength to face Laozi. Back then, when sect leader Tong Tian used the fairy-slaying sword formation, Laozi was able to escape unscathed. It would be fine if they had treasures in their hands. But the problem was that his realm was not as good as mine, his treasures were not as good as mine, and his mystic arts were not as good as mine. Even if they fought once, they would only lose face once more. However, even so, this condition could not be agreed to. Although the West was better than before, it was still poor and lacking in treasures. The blue lotus flag was a rare treasure in the West, almost in the top 5. However, if he could use him to sever the karma, even though it would hurt his heart, Xuanti would still reluctantly part with him. A loss was a loss. Although Xuanti was shameless, he could still afford to lose. However, a 10th-stage golden lotus was a completely different story. After all, this was a true treasure of the Buddhist sect. Although the 8 treasures pond of merit and virtue had gradually replaced the Bodhi wood and the 12th-stage golden lotus. This supreme treasure was not as good as before. In addition, during the investiture of the gods' battle, the 12th grade golden lotus had been bitten by mosquito Dowrin for 3 grades. After many years of nurturing, it had only recovered to 1 grade. But as long as there was enough time, restoring the 12th grade was only a matter of time. Furthermore, the lotus flower was a symbol of Buddhism. As the saying goes, when the flowers bloom, I see everyone. Most importantly, even with the 8 treasures merit pond, the golden lotus was still a supreme treasure that could not be missed. Moreover, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Most importantly, this supreme treasure could not only be restored, but it also had extraordinary potential. If they could obtain the origins of other lotus platforms, the 12th grade golden lotus could be improved further. It might even be able to break through to a Khanate supreme treasure. Then, the Buddhist sect would truly have a treasure that could protect its fate. Why could the Buddhists tolerate Zengyuanzi sleeping soundly by the side of the bed, but always make things difficult for the Netherworld River? Apart from fighting for control of the underworld, it was also because, according to the Buddhist sect's teachings, the 8 groups of spiritual beings had azuras. Most importantly, Xuanti and his companion wanted to take the 12th grade red lotus of fire from Mingi. They wanted to extract the origin of the red lotus and fuse it with the golden lotus to transform it. That way, the Buddhist sect would truly have a supreme treasure that could protect its fate. As for the 8 treasures pond of merit and virtue, as long as it was constantly refined by merit, fate, and wish, the power of this supreme treasure might not be inferior to the golden lotus. Unfortunately, it would take a lot of effort and time to upgrade this supreme treasure to the level of a Khanate supreme treasure. The key was still the auxiliary supreme treasure. Not only did the Buddhist sect lack supreme treasures, but they also lacked offensive and defensive supreme treasures. This was the real reason why the Khanate Lone Mystery sect had lost to Sanqing. What could they do if they couldn't defeat Sanqing? If the golden lotus could transform into a Khanate supreme treasure, it would be completely different for them. Even if they couldn't defeat Sanqing, they would still be in an invincible position. After all, the golden lotus was the descendant of the green lotus of creation. Once it transformed into a supreme treasure, it would not be inferior to the black and yellow exquisite pagoda. Unfortunately, the ideal was beautiful, but the reality was cruel. After years of planning, there was still no hope. As if sensing danger, Mingi had directly escaped into the Blood Sea after ancient times and never traveled the desolation path again. Although they knew that he was in his lair, Xuanti and his companion could do nothing to him. Mingi was considered the most powerful person below the sages in all aspects. However, everyone below the sages was insignificant. Back then, Eastern Emperor Tai had dared to face the sages only because he had the Eastern Emperor Bell, a Khanate supreme treasure. The demon race had almost become the main character of half of the world, and the Zodion star formation. Mingi was not bad, but he clearly couldn't compare to Eastern Emperor Tai. However, there was one thing that no one in the entire Desolation Path could compare to. Mingi was the master of the Blood Sea. If it had been Xinyuanzi or Kuanpeng, Xuanti and his companion might have directly robbed him. However, it was obviously not possible to directly attack Mingi. As long as the Blood Sea did not dry up, Mingi would not die. Was it difficult to dry up the Blood Sea? For ordinary people, and even for treasures, it was difficult. However, for sages, it was not as difficult as they imagined. It was easy to evaporate the Blood Sea, but even sages couldn't bear the consequences of evaporating the Blood Sea. After all, the Blood Sea was the Desolation Path's waste treatment plant, sewage treatment plant, and the ultimate were located. Once the Blood Sea was damaged, the negative elements in the world could not be carried and digested. The world could easily cause catastrophes. The consequences of catastrophes were damage to the world. In ancient times, the Western ancestral vein was broken. In ancient times, the heavenly pillar fell, the firmament was broken, and the entire Desolation Path was destroyed. This was a huge blow to the world. Once such a situation occurred, the amount of karma would be unimaginable. Even the three pure ones, who possessed the merit of creation, or even Goddess Nviwa, who had achieved sainthood through merit, would be directly knocked down from the sage realm. This was also why Xuanti and his companion didn't dare to act rashly. In fact, if Mingi wasn't in the Blood Sea, as long as he was cut off from the Blood Sea, it would be very easy to kill him or steal his treasures. Unfortunately, Mingi didn't give them a chance at all. After sensing the danger, he immediately holed up and didn't come out. Xuanti had no choice but to send Xidagarba to the underworld. On one hand, he was fighting for power, and on the other hand, he was monitoring Mingi and looking for flaws so that he could strike quickly. Chapter 840. The Golden Lotus was indispensable to Buddhism, be it in terms of potential value or current use. Therefore, it was absolutely wishful thinking to want to take away the Golden Lotus. Xuanti and the other were still counting on him to transform into a Khanate cardinal treasure, so that they could stand tall and fight against the celestial sect. Although this wish seemed a little far-fetched, especially after the sage was grounded. However, it was better to have hope than to not have any hope at all. Haha, this won't do, that won't do. Do you mean that you Buddhists don't want to pay any price and just give up? Do you want us to compensate you with something else? This time, without waiting for Laozi to respond, the primeval Lord of Heaven sneered. He had never seen such a shameless person before. The sage had lost all his face and told the primeval Lord of Heaven not to be associated with him. It's not that we don't want to pay the price, but the price is too high. We can't afford it. The guide lowered his head and said, "The price is too high? Are you saying that Luya and the others are not worth 2 spirit treasures?" The primeval Lord of Heaven said with a faint smile, "If Xuanti and the others were not careful, the Buddhists would be alienated. Although they knew that treasures were important, it was inevitable that they would feel a knot in their hearts. Especially in addition to the people who were originally Buddhists, there were also some who joined later. These people were not so wholeheartedly devoted to Buddhism. The reason why they joined was that Buddhism could bring them benefits. If there were no benefits and it harmed their interests, the situation would probably be different. We must save them, but we can change the conditions," the guide said solemnly. If the two Taoists really don't want to negotiate, although we are no match for the two of you, we may not be afraid of the two of you after a fight. That's right, you don't have to sow discord. The green lotus flag can be used, but the golden lotus is a treasure of the Buddhists. We can't hand it over no matter what. We can replace it with the divine pestle. Zhuanti said resolutely. If you were me, would you hand over the Pangu flag? Of course not. The primeval Lord of Heaven sneered without hesitation. However, I'm not a loser. Moreover, how could a mere golden lotus compare to the Pangu banner? Zhuanti wanted to say something, but was pulled back by Jiayin. Heavenly Venerate, please make another request. This is really too much. All right, in that case, hand over the five-needle pine tree and the green lotus flag. In Zhuanti, Jiayin thought that even if Laozi agreed, he would be silent for a long time. Just when the primordial Lord of Heaven wanted to continue retorting, little did they expect that as soon as they finished speaking, Laozi would agree without any hesitation. This request isn't too much, is it? Moreover, the five-needle pine tree shouldn't be a treasure used to suppress the fortune of Buddhism, right? Hearing that, Zhuanti and Li Wuyo were stunned. Then, they realized that they had fallen into their father's trap. Since Zhuanti and Li Wuyo understood, Tong Tian and the others naturally understood as well. They couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Indeed, the older the ginger, the wiser the ginger. He managed to trick Zhuanti and Zhang Xian into running around in circles without batting an eyelid. Alas, Zhuanti and Li Wuyo looked at each other. The corners of their mouths twitched. This time, they really wanted to cry. They didn't expect that what Laozi really wanted was the green lotus flag and the five-needle pine tree. They were just afraid that they wouldn't agree, so they used a trick to cross the sea. First, they made two requests that they couldn't agree to. After they refused, they took the opportunity to put forward this condition. As the saying goes, things shouldn't be done more than 3 times. Moreover, this request happened to be stuck at the limit that they could bear. A little more could be the last straw that broke the camel's back. But it was also because of this that they felt uncomfortable. It was as if they had hit the nail on the head. In fact, it was just as Zhuanti and Li Wuyo thought. How dare they plot against me? Laozi wanted to find a way to make Zhuanti and Li Wuyo bleed, especially after Fang Qingshan won the battle. In order to expand the victory, Laozi targeted the five-needle pine tree and the green lotus flag. The reason why he chose these two things was very simple. The West originally didn't have any treasures that they could take out. Compared to these two treasures, if it wasn't the treasure of luck, it would be the spiritual treasure that proved the way. Obviously, they wouldn't take them out no matter what. The two requests he had made earlier were to test the waters. If Zhuanti and Li Wuyo agreed, he could also take the opportunity to agree. But obviously, it was exactly as he imagined. The two refused without the slightest hesitation. Therefore, he first targeted the green lotus flag and the 6 bamboo of purity. As for the five-needle pine tree, it was a last-minute idea. After all, he didn't know that the five-needle pine tree was in the hands of Buddhism. Although the 6 bamboo of purity and the five-needle pine tree were both among the top 10 connate spiritual roots of desolation. Although these two spiritual roots were not inferior to the azure lotus flag, and both had the effect of suppressing luck, the azure lotus flag was not as powerful as the azure lotus flag. But obviously, compared to the 6 bamboo of purity, the five-needle pine tree was more effective for Fang Qingshan. After all, this was a top-notch connate spiritual root with all 5 elements. For those who cultivated the Tao of the 5 elements, it was like adding wings to a tiger. They wouldn't exchange it for a connate treasure. After all, treasures were good, but they were external objects. The five-needle pine tree, on the other hand, could assist in the cultivation of the Tao. Moreover, the five-needle pine tree was an exchange. Not only would Kong Xian's cultivation be disrupted, but he would also be alienated from Buddhism. Kong Xian was also a cultivator of the Tao of the 5 elements. Although the five-needle pine tree wasn't as important as the 5-color divine light, if he lost this treasure, his originally hopeless breakthrough would be even more distant. Moreover, he had used his own object of enlightenment in exchange for the benefits of the Buddhist sect. Such a selfless act would make anyone feel uncomfortable. After all, humans were selfish. Moreover, Kong Xian did not have a good relationship with the Buddhist sect to begin with. The reason why he joined Buddhism was because he was forced, and secondly, it was for the Tao of luck. However, if he didn't agree, it would cause dissension among the other Buddhist disciples who fell into Fang Qingshan's hands. They wouldn't care how important this treasure was to Kong Xian. Even if Laozi was determined to ask for the 12th grade golden lotus and Zhuangdi didn't agree, they would inevitably feel uncomfortable. This was a problem of human nature. Although there was no lack of people who were selfless, most of them had their own little schemes. Therefore, whether Zhuangdi agreed or not, it was a trap. It was up to him to decide. Apart from tricking Buddhism and slowing down Kong Xian's Tao by choosing the 5-needle pine tree, there was another thing that was especially important to Fang Qingshan. The Tao was competing, and the Tao walked alone. Fang Qingshan and Kong Xian were both cultivators of the Tao of the 5 elements. Once one of them achieved the Tao of the 5 elements first, it would be a fatal blow to the other. Now, that Fang Qingshan was only a golden immortal, and Kong Xian was almost at the edge of a breakthrough. It was reasonable for Laozi to do this. Chapter 841. If Fang Qingshan could get the 5-needle pine tree and the green lotus flag, it would definitely be of great help to his 5 elements great Tao. It would help him break through faster and more smoothly. As for saying that, he had completely offended Kong Xian, the Buddhist sect, and even the Phoenix clan. In this regard, he just wanted to say that he didn't care at all. Although Kong Xian was not bad, compared to Fang Qingshan, who had the timeless arc, he was obviously much worse in terms of intimacy and potential. The rise of the Buddhist sect was a disaster for the Xianmen. As for the Phoenix clan, apart from Mother Phoenix, who was suppressing the undying volcano, no one else was worthy of his attention. Mother Phoenix could not come out even during the cataclysm. Therefore, what did it matter if he offended the 3 of them? Once Fang Qingshan obtained these treasures, he would soar to the sky. It would be of great help to Ren school, himself, and the Xianmen. In that case, it was almost a matter of benefit and no harm. Anyone would probably make the same choice. There would not be more than 3 times. He had already rejected 2 requests, and the 3rd request did not touch the bottom line. If he rejected it again, it would be a slap in the face. He was afraid that it would really be difficult to make up for it today. Even if he made a fuss to Daozu, he would still be implicated. Looking at Kundi and Vaiwa's expressions, the 3 pure ones, except for Goddess and Vaiwa, felt sour. After becoming a god, the Xianmen Orthodox sect, the Pangu Orthodox sect, was actually suppressed by a barbarian. It was simply a shame. Now he had finally gotten some interest back. Why? Are the 2 Taoists still unwilling? Do you think that I'm easy to bully? His voice gradually turned cold. The Taiji painting and the carrying pole were already in his hands. That was his bottom line. Whether it was for the Buddhist sect or for Fang Qingshan, he had to achieve his goal. It seemed that once Zhuangdi and the other 2 refused, they would not hesitate to start a war. Not only him, but the primordial Lord of Heaven also took out the Tri-Treasure Rui and the Pangu banner and looked at the 2 with a faint smile. At this moment, the Zhuangdi duo were suffering in silence, unable to voice their bitterness. Although he knew that it might cause Kong Xian to be disloyal, he could only follow the path that his father had opened. After all, although Kong Xian was powerful compared to Xitigarbha and the others, the Buddhist teachings were more important. In particular, Xitigarbha, Mithriya, and Medicine Master were their disciples. All right, we agree. Zhuangdi and Jie-in looked at each other and nodded with difficulty. He pulled out the 5-needle pine tree from Kong Xian's body and threw it to Laozi. Then he said coldly, "Can you let them go now?" Without waiting for Laozi to speak, Fang Qingshan knew that it was the right time. He followed Laozi's advice and released Immortal Luya and the others. Apart from the green lotus flag, he did not embezzle any other treasures. However, Zhuangdi and Primordial Lord did not look happy at all. Their cold gazes swept across Laozi, primordial lord, and even Fong Qingshan. Today, all of you are superior. However, the mountains are high and the rivers are long. We will meet again. After saying this, Junti could not wait to leave this sad place. The farce was over. When the music was over, Fong Qingshan naturally followed Laozi back to Dachi Heaven. Firstly, it was to heal his wounds. Secondly, it was to avoid the limelight. Thirdly, it was to digest what he had gained. While Fong Qingshan and the others were fighting in the chaos, Six-Eared Macaque, who had been thrown back into the desolation by Fong Qingshan in advance, had successfully survived the great tribulation of life and death with the help of his doppelganger. Not only Six-Eared Macaque, but when almost all the experts of the Buddhist sects were attracted by the battle of Fong Qingshan and the others, Monkey Sun and the others, with the help of Fong Qingshan's doppelganger, had overcome other tribulations with irresistible force and arrived at the foot of Holy Mountain. The general trend of the Buddhist sects has succeeded. Seeing that Monkey Sun and the others had arrived at Holy Mountain, the entire Zahiniyu province seemed to have a giant dragon come to life. Auspicious clouds, auspicious light, purple chi, heavenly flowers, golden lotuses, and all kinds of strange phenomena appeared one after another. In the desolation, many forces could not help but sigh. The cake was only so big. The rise of one force was bound to be accompanied by the suppression and decline of other forces. The Buddhist sects have plundered the desolation. Most of the forces, including the Heavenly Court, the Demon Tribe, the Celestial Sect, and the Dragon Tribe, have lost a lot of karma. Their general trend is torrential and unstoppable. The Celestial Sect is indeed the Celestial Sect. It is the authentic Pangu sect and the direct descendant of Daozu. Under such circumstances, they could still fight back. With the appearance of a God's favored one like Fong Qingshan, he actually suppressed the arrogance of the Buddhist sects with his own strength. Otherwise, I'm afraid that everyone can only look up to the Buddhist sections. Not bad, not bad. Hongjun Tiandao needs to be balanced. Seeing that the Buddhist sects are unstoppable, Fong Qingshan's appearance unexpectedly tore a hole in the complete general trend. It's really satisfying. Although the prosperity of the Buddhist sects was the general trend, it was not a good thing for others. In the past, it was fine. Since they could not fight back, they could only accept it silently. But now, with Fong Qingshan's appearance, it was truly satisfying. If not for the fact that they had to maintain their dignity and did not want to offend the Buddhist sects, these people would have been celebrating. Regardless of what the others were saying, after the defeat of many treasures and the others, they had to come out to preside over the work. After all, Monkey Sun and the others had arrived at the Thunder Sound Temple. Moreover, after the battle and the chaos, the Buddhist sects were holding back their anger and wanted to get back at them. However, if they wanted to get back at them, they had to first improve their own cultivation. And if they wanted to improve their own cultivation, what could be faster than merit and luck? Dang, dang, dang. The sound of morning bells and evening drums rang out incessantly. The deep sound was shocking and awakening. It reverberated in the spirited mountain and even spread towards the western Hinyu prefecture and even the entire untainted land. For a moment, everyone, including the sages and even Hongjun Tiandao, focused their attention here. Everyone was watching. The journey to the west was about to end. The western ancestral vein was successfully repaired, the Buddhist sects flourished, and Hongjun Tiandao was perfected. Tang Sung and the others first came to the great deity of Yuzhen Temple at the foot of the spirited mountain. No one knew where this person came from. A Taoist expert actually lived at the foot of the spirited mountain and even became a guide. It was puzzling. He said that he had joined the Buddhist sects and was dressed as a Taoist. If not, how could he allow others to sleep beside his bed? Since the Buddhist sects flourished, Zenyuanzi had basically closed the mountain and secluded himself. After drinking tea and eating vegetarian food at the Golden Peak deity's place, he took a bath and changed his clothes. The next day, Tripitaka finally put on the embroidered kasaya that he had never worn during the journey to the west. He put on the pillow hat and held a monk's staff. He went to the hall to bid farewell to the great deity and brought Monkey Sun to the spirited mountain. Along the way, they saw the Sumeru meridian connected to the sky. Auspicious lights of 5 colors, auspicious aura, jade grass, and beautiful flowers never wither, green pines and cypresses everlasting. Immortal apes and white cranes formed a flock, colorful phoenixes and green wands formed a pair. All fate ends before the world of mortals, and all tribulations end in the great law hall. It was indeed the Buddhist spirited mountain, a paradise. Chapter 842. Breaking away from the flesh and bones of the womb and loving each other was the primordial spirit. Today, one would become a Buddha and wash away the dust of the past. To reach Mount Spirited, one had to cross the Ling Yun Ferry. This was also the last difficulty to reach Mount Spirited. Although it was just a stream of flowing water, it was about 8 to 9 miles wide, and there were no signs of people. It was completely incomparable to the 800 miles of Quicksand River, the hundreds of miles of Tongtian River, and the Black River. However, this was the holy land of Mount Spirited. In order to show respect, even if many mighty figures came here, they would walk without using any magical powers. Therefore, to cross this place, one had to walk step by step across the single plank bridge in the middle. This was naturally not difficult for Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji. However, it was difficult for Tripitaka, Monk Sha, and Little White Dragon. Just as they were hesitating, a small boat flew over from the ferry. It was a clone that was receiving them, opening the door of convenience, passing fated people, and receiving all living beings. When boarding the ferry, Tripitaka accidentally fell into the water, but he was reborn. He washed away the mortal world and changed back to his original body, Golden Cicada. After passing the Lingyan ferry, along the way Upasai, Upai, Bika monks, Bhikkhunis, and so on lined the road to welcome them. Outside the Thunder Temple, there were 4 Vajras waiting. Tripitaka and his disciples, under the guidance of the 4 Vajras, arrived at the great Buddha Hall. The sky was filled with Buddhas, Tathagata, Dipankara, Crow Nest, Ksitigarbha, Mitha, Medicine Master, Manjushri, Samanabhadra, Guanyin. The 4 Vajras, 500 Juras, 3,000 Jeti, 11 Dayo, and 18 Singaras were all gathered together. Tripitaka was a person who worshipped Buddha when he saw a temple and swept the pagodas when he saw one. He had never seen so many true Buddhas before, so he immediately bowed to the Bodhisattvas and Buddhas. Finally, he came in front of Tathagata and knelt. Disciple Tang Sanzang came from the Tang dynasty of the East. I traveled 108,000 miles, experienced 81 hardships, and arrived at the treasure mountain to seek the true scriptures and enlighten the people. I hope that Buddha will grant me grace and help all living beings. Originally, according to the original trajectory, Tathagata would first talk loudly, put on airs, and show off. He said that the eastern earth is high and the earth is deep, abundant in resources and dense in people, too greedy and too murderous, too lascivious and too deceitful, does not follow Buddhism, does not seek good karma, does not respect the 3 lights, does not pay attention to the 5 grains, is disloyal and unfilial, unrighteous and heartless, deceiving one's heart and self, fighting big and small, killing people and slaughtering animals. He committed boundless sins. His sins were full of evil, causing the calamity of hell to befall him. That was why he fell into the netherworld for eternity. In the end, it could all be summed up in one sentence: disobeying Buddhism. But he himself bemoaned the state of the universe and pitied the fate of mankind. He was extremely merciful and merciful. He could not bear to see the people of the world suffer in ignorance. Therefore, he passed down the Ifeizong, talking about heaven, the Luanzong, talking about the earth, the Jingzong, guiding ghosts. There were a total of 35 books, 15,144 volumes. After that, he had Anan and Jia Yi lead Xuanzong and the others away. He first entertained them and then gave them the scriptures. However, because of this, the later generations would starve to death. Xuanzang and the others had nothing on them, so they did not give a greeting gift. Therefore, the person who passed the scriptures used fake scriptures as an excuse. Later, with the help of Mithriya Buddha, they came to their senses in time. Originally, there was still the Tongtian River and the Yuanshe scripture tribulation. However, because of the battle between Fang Qingshan and Tathagata and the others in the chaos, it was counted as 81 tribulations, so the Tongtian River tribulation was avoided. In addition, Tathagata and the others could not wait to obtain merit and fate, so they did not make things difficult for Xuanzang and the others. They directly passed down the scriptures and gave them karmic titles. After all, the journey to the West was supposed to be a great prosperity for Buddhism to proclaim its might to the world. However, after Fang Qingshan caused such a ruckus, there was no need for it all. The most important thing now was to finish the journey to the West to prevent any more complications. Then, he could borrow the fate and merit to sweep away the bad luck and increase his cultivation. Therefore, Tathagata directly asked Ana and Kasayapa to make a copy of the Sanzang's Mahayana scripture from the Spirited Mountain Scripture Depository and gave it to Monk Sha. Next, they officially began to reward them according to their contributions. Many treasures said in a clear voice, "The path of seeking scriptures is long and dangerous. You are not afraid of the difficulties. You are unyielding, and you know your nature. After 81 tribulations, you finally arrived at Spirited Mountain. Your merit and virtue are complete. It can be said that you have great perseverance, great opportunity, great fortune, and great magical power. Today, Buddhism is prospering, and your contributions cannot go unnoticed. I have the heart of heaven, so I will reward you according to your contributions." Here it comes. As soon as he said this, the entire Desolation people thought of this word. "Sanzang, your original name is Golden Cicada, and you are my disciple. Because you do not listen to the Dharma and look down on my great sect, I have demoted your true spirit. However, you have a Zen heart. After 10 reincarnations, you still do not forget your original intention. You are unswerving from beginning to end, and your merit is immeasurable. Today, you are conferred the title of Buddha of Sandalwood Merit. Amitabha, thank you, Buddha." Monk Tripitaka bowed happily and retreated. Although he had heard from Buddha that he was once his disciple, Monk Tripitaka, who had yet to recover his memory, naturally felt great joy when he heard that he had become a Buddha from a mortal. After conferring Monk Tripitaka, many treasures turned to look at Monkey Sunday. "Monkey son, come forward and listen to the conferment." "I, old son, am here. At this moment, Monkey Son could not hold back the excitement in his heart and could not wait to step forward and say. Ever since he heard Fang Qingshan's words on Black Wind Mountain, Monkey Son's desire to become stronger increased day by day. However, which cultivator did not want to become stronger? But who did not want to become stronger through the accumulation of time? However, when he thought of how he had become a pawn in someone else's hands before he was even born, and how he later became a clown for others to play with, Monkey Son did not want to wait. He wanted to get rid of his fate and control his own destiny. Fortunately, he was in the midst of a tribulation. As long as he completed it, he would have great merit and his cultivation would naturally rise rapidly. Therefore, he did not want to wait a moment longer. You were originally a stubborn stone that mended the heavens. Although you had merit and luck, your mind was unstable. So you robbed the Dragon Palace, broke into the underworld, and created havoc in the Heavenly Palace. You committed a terrible crime. You might as well mend the fence after the sheep is lost, repent, and become a Buddha. You have performed meritorious deeds in refining demons and subduing monsters. From the beginning to the end, you have been promoted. You are now the victorious fighting Buddha. Thank you, Buddha. Hearing that Tathagata had conferred him the title of Buddha, just like Monk Tripitaka, Monkey Son was overjoyed and quickly thanked him. Zhu Beiji, you used to be the Heavenly Canopy Marshal, but your 6 senses are impure and you've committed a great sin. You might as well join the great sect and enter the Sand Sect to assist Sun Wukong and protect the holy monk on his path. You will be promoted to the position of the cleansing altar emissary. If it was the original Zhu Beiji, who was lazy, greedy, and lustful, it would not be an exaggeration to confer the title of cleansing altar messenger. However, this time, even if Zhu Beiji's contributions were not as good as Monkey Sun, he should at least be at the Bodhisattva realm. He was not someone that a mere messenger could send away. Obviously, Tathagata could suppress him. After all, Zhu Beiji was a disciple of Rin School and Fang Qingshan's disciple nephew. Fang Qingshan had caused the Buddhists to suffer heavy losses, be it merit, luck, numinous treasures, or reputation. Because of him, Kongxian was even more disloyal. How could Tathagata not make things difficult for him? Chapter 843. Zhu Beiji didn't know about realized little tricks, nor did he care. If it was the original Zhu Beiji, he might have made a fuss. Why was it that his master and senior brother had become Buddhas, but he was just an emissary of the cleansing altar? But now, because he didn't care, it didn't matter. His heart was not in Buddhism at all, so he did not care whether this was an emissary or a bodhisattva. Even if it was a Buddha, so what? In any case, after the journey to the West, he would have to return to his sect. Thus, Zhu Beiji did not care about him at all. Of course, the most important thing was that while the human heart could be deceived, the will of the heavens could not be deceived. Everything he did was determined by the heavens. Regardless of whether he was an appointed emissary or a Buddha, his merit and luck would not be lacking. Since that was the case, what else was there to say? Sha Wujing, you used to be the curtain-lifting general, but you failed to fulfill your duty and were banished to the mortal world. You even committed sins by eating humans. Fortunately, you converted to our sect. You sincerely respected Jia Qi, protected the holy monk, climbed the mountain, and led the horse. You should be promoted to the golden body Arhat. Little White Dragon, you were originally the third prince of the Dragon Palace of the West Sea. Because of your disobedience and unfilial behavior, you were reported to the heavenly court by your father. You were supposed to walk on the dragon beheading platform. Fortunately, you converted to the Dharma and entered the Sand Sect. You carried the holy monk to the west, and you also carried the holy scriptures to the east. Thank you, Buddha. Monk Sha and Little White Dragon were overjoyed when they heard this. They quickly thanked him. Although they were not as good as their master and senior brother, the golden-bodied Arhat and an 8-division heavenly dragon horse were pretty good. Although he was an Arhat and an 8-division heavenly dragon, his position was comparable to that of a bodhisattva. His full name was Namo 8 Treasures Golden Arhat Bodhisattva. Namo 8 Division Heavenly Dragon Guang Li Bodhisattva. The two of them were different from Zhu Beiji. After Zhu Beiji's journey to the west, he had to return to his sect. Monk Sha and Little White Dragon, on the other hand, were prepared to join Buddhism. After all, it was cool under a big tree. Of course, they definitely didn't know that the Buddhist sect had suffered a crushing defeat in the battle in the primal chaos. However, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Even if the sky collapsed, there would be someone tall to hold it up. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. As soon as the decree was completed, Duobao, Dipankara, Ksitigarbha, Kongxian, the 4 Vajrapani, the 500 Jura, the 3,000 Jeti, the 11 Great Lights, the 18 Sangaras, the Tripitaka, the Monkey King, and the others chanted in unison Amitba. As soon as he finished speaking, it was as if he was making a great vow to the heavens. Bursts of Sanskrit chants pierced the ears like thunder. With lightning speed, the chants spread out in all directions with the great strength hall at the center. Spirited Mountain, the Western Hinyu State, the 4 great continents, the 4 seas, the 3 realms of heaven, earth, and man, the starry desolation, and even the chaos. Buzz! Amidst the rumbling, an invisible pressure swept through the world like a tide. Countless living beings felt as if shackles had appeared around their bodies, suppressing them to the point where they could not resist at all. There was also endless divine light and waves of the aura of the great Tao gushing out, transforming into wondrous rhythmic ripples that spread out in all directions. Some kind of celestial music suddenly rang out between heaven and earth, as if it was celebrating something mysterious and unfathomable. Hongjun Tiandao appeared in the world. How many years had it been since the ancient Daozu converged with the Tao? Hongjun Tiandao retired, and after the sages made the pilgrimage on behalf of the heavens. Unless it was the cultivation calamity, Hongjun Tiandao would no longer appear in the world. Although the pilgrimage to the west was a prosperous time for Buddhism, it was not considered a cultivation calamity. The reason why Hongjun Tiandao appeared was because of the restoration of the ancestral vein of the West. For a time, auspicious light and auspicious qi formed a canopy in the sky, and heavenly flowers and golden lotuses covered the earth. There were all kinds of images. At that moment, an invisible will of heaven and earth instantly gathered into a vertical eye, overlooking the world. It was selfless and desireless, supreme. It was full of majesty and indescribable. Under that kind of pressure, everyone felt that they were insignificant. Even the sages were no exception. The eye of Hongjun Tiandao. The power of heaven is like a prison. The pupils of Laozi and the others shrunk to the size of a needle as they lowered their heads and muttered to themselves. They were improving, and things were different now. Hongjun Tiandao was improving faster. Fortunately, they were one, and they complemented each other. When they improved, they would feed back Hongjun Tiandao, and when Hongjun Tiandao improved, it would also speed up their cultivation. Good. The light of the eye of Hongjun Tiandao swept across everyone. At that moment, most of them seemed to be naked, with no secrets at all. At a certain moment, there seemed to be a mysterious, heavenly voice echoing in the void. Whoosh! The eye of Hongjun Tiandao blinked, and an infinite amount of golden light shot out, dispersing into thousands of miles of clouds in the universe. Heaven and earth suddenly shook, and in the midst of a loud roar, a vast and huge cloud of merit descended from the sky. The amount of merit was vast and extensive. Since the creation of the world in Pangu, other than the merit of creating humans, mending the heavens, and reincarnation, perhaps even the merit of the three sovereigns added together could not compare to this. Roar. First, a dragon roar sounded. At first, it was as weak as a mosquito, but it gradually grew taller like gold and stone. Finally, it was like thunder piercing the ears and resounding through the clouds. West Heliox Province, starting from Mount Five Elements and Mount Two Boundaries, along the Eagle Sorrow Stream, Black Wind Mountain, Gaolao Village, all the way to Mount Hao, Jindo Cave, and Lingyan Ferry. There was an infinite amount of spiritual qi and will gathered, winding and twisting. A giant dragon, a trapped dragon, roaring in the great swamp, and finally flying in the sky. This was the dragon vein formed by the Western ancestral vein. Those who did not know would think that the ancestral dragon had been resurrected. It had golden scales, 9 claws, and was vivid and lifelike. As soon as it appeared, it soared for 90,000 miles, covering the sun and the sky. It hovered above West Heliox Province and Mount Meru, letting out a dragon roar and dancing its body. Almost everyone could hear the joy from the bottom of its heart. Putting aside the others, the happiest person was not the current ancestor of Buddhism, but the guide Junti in the chaos. After ancient times, the Western ancestral vein had always been weak. For the sake of the West and Buddhism, the two had suffered a lot. Today, the Western ancestral vein was restored, and Buddhism was flourishing. At this moment, the obsession in their hearts seemed to have dissipated a lot. Their auras suddenly rose, and they took a big step forward. Double happiness. Sensing the changes in the Western paradise, Nuwa and Primordial Being could not help but snort coldly. Nuwa thought that if Junti improved, wouldn't she be at the bottom of the sages? Primordial Being simply looked down on the Western duo and could not bear to see them doing well. A trace of sword light flashed in sect leader Tongtian's eyes. Only Laozi remained expressionless, calmly sitting on the fishing platform. just when the Western duo's cultivation base was greatly improved due to the prosperity of the Buddhism League, the merit and luck in the sky, which could no longer bear it, suddenly fell down like a meteor shower, scattering into hundreds of golden lights of different sizes. Among them, Monkey Sun alone enjoyed 2 layers of merit luck. Tripitaka and Zhu each enjoyed 1.5 layers of merit luck. Monk Sha and Little White Dragon each enjoyed half a layer of merit luck. The other 1.5 layers fell into Feng Qingshan's hands. 1 layer fell into Tathagata's hands. The remaining 1.5 layers were scattered on the bodies of the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, immortals, and demons who had participated in the journey to the West. With the merit luck on their bodies, Monkey Sun and Tripitaka were the first to erupt. With the merit luck of the journey to the West as a guide, the merit hidden in Monkey Sun's body was instantly drawn out. Chapter 844. The heaven-nourishing merit and the journey to the West merit formed a golden cocoon that surrounded the Monkey King. At this moment, his thoughts were clear. The golden hoop that was imprisoning his head instantly descended. One could only see the intent horse descending. It followed the Crimson Palace and landed directly on the inner monkey. The inner monkey flipped and instantly rode on the intent horse. In an instant, the dragon and tiger intertwined, and the yin and yang were complete. An inexplicable wave spread out from the Monkey King's body. A powerful wave shot up into the sky and swept in all directions. The desolation swept across. Wherever it passed, even Guanyin, Manjushri, and the others could not help but feel suffocated. The pressure of a quasi-sage. Moreover, it was not an ordinary quasi-sage. It was the king of war, a sage with a physical body. After all, the 2 portions of merit combined took up almost 40% of the journey to the West merit. Of course, so much merit could not be digested in an instant. After breaking through to quasi-sage, the remaining merit was hidden in the Monkey King's physical body. He still needed to polish it. As if he did not want Sun Wukong to take the lead and compete with him, Tripitaka's body trembled. Suddenly, golden light shot out from his body. In the Aparagodania continent, endless spiritual energy surged and poured into Mount Meru. A silent rumble sounded, and an aura that was similar to Sun Wukong's shot into the sky. Quasi-sage. When Ling Yun crossed, Tripitaka shed his mortal body and fused it with the golden cicada's physical body that had been tempered in the 8 treasures merit pool for 10 lifetimes. At this moment, the merit was added to his body and his primordial spirit was awakened. The past events and comprehension of the realm sword. For a moment, a murderous aura and a merciful aura perfectly fused together. The murderous aura naturally came from the golden cicada, a ferocious beast of desolation. Even though he had entered Buddhism, a leopard could not change its spots. With the original foundation and fate of merit, Tripitaka, like the Monkey King, entered the quasi-sage realm and became a mighty figure. Next was Zhu Beiji, Monk Sha, and Little White Dragon. This time, Zhu Beiji's amount of fate of merit was similar to Tripitaka's. Unfortunately, because of his reincarnation and lack of foundation, he was stuck at the Zenith Heaven realm. However, Zhu Beiji was already very satisfied to be able to walk the path that others had walked for millions of years in just a few decades. One must know that Guang Chengzi and the others had attained Dao during the reign of the Heavenly Emperor. However, by the time of the conferred god battle, they had yet to break through to the quasi-sage realm. On the other hand, he was already at the perfection stage of the golden immortal realm now, and he was halfway into the quasi-saint realm. Presumably, so long as he cultivated calmly for a period of time, then breaking through would only be a matter of time. Actually, even if he wanted to break through now, it wasn't impossible. It was just that he was being suppressed by Zhu Beiji. The Xianmen placed more emphasis on the foundation. If one's foundation was solid, their future cultivation would be smooth sailing. If one's foundation wasn't solid, Even if one's progress was rapid, it would be easy for one to encounter bottlenecks in the future. In order to break through the bottleneck, the amount of time needed was much more than building the foundation, and it was also much more difficult. Although Sun Wukong, who used to be similar to him, had left him far behind, he felt a little uncomfortable. However, who asked him to have the heaven-mending merit? Furthermore, the path of cultivation was long, and there was no need to strive for a short period of time. The days ahead are long. Breaking through now was just a fight for a false reputation. It was not worth it for him. After Zhu Beiji, Monk Sha, and Little White Dragon also broke through to the Golden Immortal Realm, but they had only just entered it. However, it was already a pleasant surprise for the two of them. One must know that in this era, Golden Immortals were kings, Grand Immortals were revered, Grand Immortals were the overlords, and Quasi-Saints were the trump cards. Others aside, among the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas, A.O. Guang, who had the highest cultivation base, was only at the peak of Grand Immortal Realm. Apart from the Journey to the West team, the demons and deities who had participated in the 81 ordeals also received a portion of the merit providence. However, there were at least dozens of them in their group. 1.5 merit providence might seem like a lot, but with so many people sharing it, not many would end up in their hands in the end. However, compared to Little White Dragon and the others, the difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. Therefore, if they wanted to rely on the merit providence to rise by 3 levels and improve by leaps and bounds like the Journey to the West team, it was impossible. However, although it wouldn't improve by much in one go, in the long run, it would also increase one's foundation and save time. It wasn't like there weren't any who could improve their state as much as the Journey to the West team. That was Many Treasures and Fong Qingshan. Many Treasures alone enjoyed 1 layer of merit providence. Although at his level, ordinary cultivation had already made it impossible for him to advance any further. But now, with the help of heaven and earth, he once again achieved a great breakthrough and became the number 1 person below the saint. He crossed the peak of Quasi-Saint and entered the Lesser Saint realm. Of course, this was the realm, not combat power. In terms of combat power, if Fong Qingshan, who would dare to say that he was the best with the Timeless Arc? At this moment, Fong Qingshan was also like Many Treasures and Sun Wukong, with a merit providence. Moreover, Fong Qingshan received 2 layers of merit providence, second only to Sun Wukong. Like Tripitaka and Zhu Beiji, he enjoyed 1.5 layers of merit providence. In the original trajectory, Guanyin used the merit providence to directly soar into the sky, surpassing Dipankara, Immortal Luya, Ksitigarbha, Methriya, and the others. She almost became the top 5 or even the top 3 giants of Buddhism. Now, it all benefited Fong Qingshan. After the Chaos War, Fong Qingshan followed his father back to Great Scarlet Sky. He recuperated and hid while sorting out his gains. As the saying goes, combat is the best teacher. Fong Qingshan fought with Many Treasures and the others, and the gains he obtained were not inferior to Many Treasures, Kong Xian, and the others. After all, his cultivation was the lowest, so the room for improvement was naturally the greatest. After returning to Great Scarlet Sky and waiting for his injuries to improve slightly, he couldn't wait. He held the Bodhi wood and drank the mixed origin spiritual liquid, completely immersing himself in the great Tao and digesting the gains from the battle. On this day, a huge merit golden pillar and a dragon providence descended from the sky and directly drilled into Fong Qingshan's Naiwan Palace. It was about to be converted into cultivation. However, it was stopped by Fong Qingshan. Using merit providence to convert cultivation was too much of a loss. Although merit providence was an all-purpose existence, the best way to use it was to assist in cultivation and not directly convert it into cultivation. Not only was it a great waste of merit providence, but it was also not very stable in terms of foundation. After all, among the 3 Tao proving methods, merit sanctification was the weakest. Therefore, seeing that the merit providence was about to be converted, Fong Qingshan hurriedly took out the heavenly chessboard and put away the merit providence. He only let it strengthen his primordial spirit and increase his cultivation level. Good heavens! Merit Providence was indeed a way to break through cultivation without any worries. It was almost comparable to Hong Jun Tiandao's enlightenment and eternal blessing. Fong Qingshan, who had broken through to the grand heavenly realm because of the eternal blessing, improved by leaps and bounds again. This time, it was not only his state of mind, but his cultivation level also rose. Chapter 845. Peaches of Immortality, Ginseng Fruits, Golden Pills of 8 Transformations, all sorts of treasures of heaven and earth, the spiritual energy of Great Red Sky, and even the spiritual energy of the eternal lightning pool and the timeless arc poured into Fong Qingshan's body as if they were free. For a moment, the spiritual energy turned into a cocoon that seemed to have materialized and surrounded Fong Qingshan. Moreover, it grew larger and denser. At this moment, Fong Qingshan seemed to have returned to the state of a baby, focusing on softness. The spiritual qi and Taoist rhymes spread from the skin, tendons and muscles to the bones, the spinal cord, the 5 viscera and 6 bowels, the acupoints, the brain, and even the dermic powers and essence spirit. All of them were being tempered and enhanced bit by bit. It could be seen that, under the baptism of the spiritual energy and the heavenly materials and earthly treasures, Fong Qingshan's flesh, internal organs, bones, and even his dharma power and nascent soul were as translucent as glass and incredibly tough. This was a metamorphosis, an improvement in the very essence of life. Even though the speed of his cultivation was not as fast as Monkey Sun and the others, he managed to reach quasi-sage in a single step. However, it was also methodically and steadily improving. Golden Immortal, early stage, mid-stage, late stage, full circle. Primordial Immortals, early, middle, late, and complete. Grand Immortal Realm, early stage, mid-stage, late stage, perfect stage. Buzz. In the instant that Fong Qingshan broke through to the grand heavenly realm, his foundation was completely forged. His Tao foundation was perfected, and his Tao art was perfected. In a trance, an incomparably huge meandering river appeared from the void. It seemed to be illusory, yet it seemed to be real. It seemed to be a combination of the real and the illusory. It was faintly discernible and traceless. It seemed to be real and illusory at the same time. Their origins were unknown, and their whereabouts were unknown. All beings beneath the grand heavenly immortal realm floated within, while the beings above the grand heavenly immortal realm leaped out of the river, hanging high up in the sky like Jotian stars, shining brightly across the skies. Bang! The moment Fong Qingshan broke through, a ray of fate that represented his fate flew out of the river like a fish leaping over the dragon gate. It soared into the sky like an eternal star. If Earth immortals were said to have shed their mortal bodies and had just achieved the immortal Tao, golden immortals were immortal. At this stage, as long as they didn't court death, they could basically live until the tribulations descended. Once he overcame the 3 tribulations and 5 tribulations, he would attain the body of a grand immortal. That was true transcendence. Time and space were eternally free, outside of the 3 realms and not within the 5 elements. At this moment, Fong Qing had finished cultivating the all-heaven chapter of the Tao, corroborating heaven's technique. The magic energy in his body was no weaker than that of ordinary quasi-sages. In fact, it was even more condensed than them. His physical strength was comparable to that of Zhu Wu. At this point, he was like the treasures of plenty. Ordinary connate spiritual treasures were not as useful as his own fists to him. At this point, an impregnable barrier had forcefully restrained Fong Qingshan. The dam blocked the river, and the wall was extremely tall. No matter how much magic power surged, it was blocked outside the door. This was the barrier between Grand Luo and primordial golden immortals, or demi-saints. Originally, the quasi-sage realm did not exist. It was just that it was too difficult for a zenith heaven to break through to primordial chaos. Daozu took pity on the difficulty of cultivation and specially imparted the three corpses execution art, which resulted in the quasi-sage realm. Although the difficulty of breaking through to primordial chaos did not decrease, at least it would not be impossible for one to advance beyond Zenith Heaven. Ordinary people would probably despair if they encountered such a bottleneck. But for Fang Qingshan, although the bottleneck was strong, it only depended on whether he was willing to break through. If he was willing, he could use his magic power that was no weaker than a quasi-sage, his physical body that was no weaker than Zhu Wu's, and the indestructible five elements all to break through in one go. However, it was clear that Fang Qingshan had no intention of breaking through, although he was unwilling to break through. But Fang Qingshan and Zhu Beiji's situation was a little different. Zhu Beiji's lack of foundation made it difficult for him to break through, and he wanted to strengthen his foundation. But it was not impossible for him to break through the shackles by relying on merit and luck, but he would need to spend more time and energy in the future to strengthen it. The loss outweighed the gain. Fang Qingshan, on the other hand, wanted to accumulate the foundation of all ages and soar into the sky, crushing his enemies with the power of the heavens. Moreover, for Fang Qingshan, breaking through to the unparalleled level in the timeless arc, especially after integrating the Zhoutian star formation and the thunderclap flag, unless he broke through to the immemorial sage realm. There was no difference between a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal and a quasi-sage. Because the timeless arc had the eternal pool of lightning, it did not need him to provide the power. With the Thunder Emperor controlling it, there was no need for him to activate it. Didn't you see that in the previous War of Chaos, with his Golden Immortal cultivation, he could trick the Buddhist sect? One should know that Many Treasures was the number one person below the Sage Realm. The others were also quasi-sages, and not at the bottom. With so many people attacking together, everyone below the Sage Realm, including the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother, Zhen Yuanzi, the Nether River Kuan Peng. Even if the East Emperor Tai came back to life, they would not be a match for them. Therefore, Fang Qingshan did not continue to break through. Instead, he kept all the remaining merit and luck for the future. After all, it would not be easy to obtain so much merit and luck next time. Most importantly, for the eternal blessing, Fang Qingshan had only filled in the Heavens Dao verification technique up to the Zenith Heaven chapter. The Immemorial Sage Realm chapter had not been perfected. What he needed to do now was not to hastily break through. Instead, he needed to consolidate his realm, digest what he had gained, and then create the Immemorial Sage Realm chapter of the Heavens Dao verification technique. Phew! Fang Qingshan opened his eyes and sensed the changes in his body. His entire body was filled with joy, and he could not help but let out a long sigh. I finally cultivated to this step. However, this is just the beginning of the Tao. The path is long, and I will continue to pursue it. Earth Immortal, Golden Immortal, and Zenith Heaven were all repeatedly cultivating the five elements, familiarizing themselves with the profound of the five elements. After Zenith Heaven was the Tao of Tao. What was Tao? Tao was the nomological law. After Zenith Heaven was the Tao of the five elements, the nomological law of the five elements. If one could completely control the nomological law of the five elements, breaking through to the immemorial sage realm was just a matter of time. Controlling a single nomological law might be a little difficult for others. Among the 6 sages, apart from Laozi, who had used the Taiji painting to control the nomological law of yin and yang and execution of 3 corpses to break through to the immemorial sage realm, the others had only broken through with the help of primordial violet qi. The 12 Zhu Wu had innately controlled the bloodline nomological law. However, in the end, only Ho Tu had abandoned his body and comprehended the great virtue realm, using the boundless merit to comprehend the nomological law and form the Tao with his essence spirit. Fortunately, with Fang Qingshan's efforts, it was much easier for him to comprehend the nomological law and break through compared to the others. First of all, the Earth Immortal, Golden Immortal, and Zenith Heaven chapters of the Heavens Tao verification technique could not only increase the speed of cultivation, improve the quality of cultivation, and nurture the connate five elements divine power. This was actually a process of sensing the profound of the five elements and nomological law in advance. That was because those five elements treasures were formed from the spirits of heaven and earth and naturally contained the connate Hongjun Tiandao divine power. Otherwise, they would not have helped Feng Qingshan comprehend the connate divine power. That built a solid foundation for him. Chapter 846. Before ascending to Grand Luo, Feng Qingshan had used countless treasures of heaven and earth to study the Tao of the five elements over and over again. It could be said that Feng Qingshan's current physique had completely transformed into the five elements Tao physique. This was a physique that was innately compatible with the great Tao of the five elements. Cultivating the laws of the five elements would yield twice the result with half the effort. Secondly, Feng Qingshan had already gathered the innate five spiritual roots: ginseng fruit tree, immortality peach tree, yellow plum, Bodhi tree, and Fusang tree. Even though they were only second-generation innate spiritual roots and not the main body, they were still top-tier innate spiritual roots under the nurturing of Feng Qingshan's 3 light holy water and 9 heaven living soil. That was more than enough for Feng Qingshan. Moreover, this time, he had also obtained a top-notch connate spiritual root, a 5-needle pine with all 5 elements. Originally, Feng Qingshan had been considering whether to use the 5-element spirit roots to help him cultivate or return to his roots to help the world tree clone. There was no need to worry about it now. As long as the 5 elemental spiritual roots were integrated into the 5-needle pine tree, it could break the shackles and become the first of the 10 great spiritual roots. The effects of a 5-element Taoist physique coupled with a top-notch 5-element spiritual root was obvious. Besides the 5 pine needles, Feng Qingshan also had the green lotus flag and the floating flame flag. Forget about the 5 needles pine tree and the green lotus flag. Those were the spoils of war he extorted from Junti and Luo Yunyang. They were all given to Feng Qingshan. As for the floating flame flag, it was originally a protective treasure that he had given to the great Taoist Master Xian Du. As for why it was in Feng Qingshan's hands, the reason was simple. He was traded over by Feng Qingshan. It was the sun and moon pearl of the goddess of turtle spirit. Although the sun and moon pearls were much weaker than the floating flame flag, the floating flame flag was much stronger. The great Taoist Master Xian Du seemed to be at a disadvantage. Little did they know that suffering a loss was a blessing. The great Taoist Master Xian Du was different from the others. He was originally a direct disciple of his. He gave him more than one top-notch connate numinous treasure. Other than the floating flame flag, there was also the 8 scenic palace lantern and the map of the universe. Although the sun moon pearl could not be compared to the floating flame flag, it was still a top-notch connate spiritual treasure. Since Tong Tian could give it to the goddess of turtle spirit, it would not be too bad. Most importantly, they were from the same sect and had a good relationship. If Feng Qingshan could really break through, it would be a good thing for the great Taoist Master Xian Du. When a man achieves the Tao, his fowls and dogs ascend to heaven. With the timeless arc, Feng Qingshan had the right to do so. Moreover, Feng Qingshan had promised that he would return a treasure that was not weaker than the 5 direction flags in the future. In that case, the great Taoist Master Xian Du would be able to do him a favor and earn numinous treasures. In fact, he would even be able to benefit from Feng Qingshan's benefits. Why not? After obtaining the floating flame flag, as well as the mystic essence water controlling flag and the green lotus flag, Zhao Fu had obtained the floating flame flag. 3 of the connate 5 direction flags had already been gathered by Feng Qingshan. He was only missing the Wuji apricot yellow flag in the hands of the heavenly lord of primordial beginning and the white cloud-bound flag in the hands of the jade pool golden mother. Feng Qingshan wanted to take it for himself, but unfortunately, he was short of money and could not take out any treasures that could be exchanged for it. As for counting on me, he did not even want to think about it. The master led the way, but the cultivation depended on the individual. I already have the intention to trade the floating flame flag with the great Taoist Master Xian. It would not be good for me to be greedy. Moreover, even if there was a comparable treasure, the heavenly lord of primordial beginning might not be willing to exchange for it. After all, the white cloud-bound flag was not just a defensive treasure, but also an immortal gathering flag. It was just like the demon summoning flag to the demons. Once the flag moved, all the immortals in the world would know. To her, the flag was not inferior to the god roll in Hao Tian's hands. Although he could not take the other two five-direction flags for the time being, and could only look on enviously, Fang Qingshan was confident that he could definitely take them. Because of the heaven chessboard, he could still go to the desolation world. Taking advantage of the fact that these treasures had not fallen into their hands yet, with his closeness to the five elements Great Tao and the three flags that he already had, he could definitely get them in advance. Even if it fell into the hands of Han Jun, as long as it was not directly given, but placed on the treasure-dividing cliff, he had a high chance of getting it. At that time, after comprehending the five needles pine, Fang Qingshan would use the connate five-direction flags to kill the corpses, and then the three corpses would become one, and the five flags would become one. Even without the primordial violet chi, he would definitely be able to break through to the primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal. It was just that he might have to face the punishment of Hong Jun Tiandao. However, Fang Qingshan, who had the timeless arc, was not afraid of this at all. Since Yang Mei could do this, there was no reason why he couldn't do it. But now was not the time to think about this. Before going to desolation, he first had to settle the matter of a mortal world, get the gate of immortal life, and ensure that Mosquito Dorn's breakthrough would be unhindered. At the moment, coming to the journey to the west, not only did he successfully complete the assigned task, but he also received much more than expected. Not to mention the other things, the thunderclap flag alone was better than everything else. Not to mention the merit and luck, the numinous treasure disciple, the promotion of the timeless arc, the breakthrough of cultivation, and so on. It's time to go back, Fang Qingshan said leisurely. Looking up, it seemed that he could penetrate time and space. At the same time, Mosquito Dauren and Immortal World looked up almost in unison, and the two seemed to look at each other. Fang Qingshan first went to say goodbye to Laozi, then said goodbye to the great master Xiandu, and finally met Bo Yikao, Lu Er, and Red Boy. Then, with a move of his heart, he communicated with the chessboard of heaven and instantly left the journey to the west and returned to Immortal World. This time, Fang Qingshan did not avoid it, but directly broke the space in the great red sky. After all, Laozi had long known that he had such a treasure, and compared to the timeless arc, the chessboard of heaven was no longer eye-catching. More importantly, although Laozi did not have such a treasure, he could also travel through the heavens with his cultivation. Therefore, it would not be coveted. The moment Fang Qingshan left, Laozi, Xuandu, Lu Er, Bo Yikao, and others immediately sensed it. Then they knew that they did not know when they would meet again, and they were afraid that it would be after Fang Qingshan proved his way. Immortal World, five elements sect. There was a fluctuation in the space like a ripple in the water. Then, like a curtain, it separated to two sides, and Fang Qingshan stepped out. In a moment, the passage disappeared and turned into a chessboard that fell into Fang Qingshan's Naiwan Palace. At the moment when Fang Qingshan appeared, Mosquito Dauren came to him. You. When the two sides saw each other, they could not help but widen their eyes, and their faces were full of disbelief. Although they were two bodies in one, their primordial spirits did not share unless they took the initiative, and they all had independent personalities. Moreover, Immortal World and the journey to the west were separated by an unknown amount of time and space, and there was no communication at all. I didn't expect that I could give you a surprise, but I didn't expect that you would surprise me first. After a while, Mosquito Dauren could not help but sigh, shook his head and said, but his tone was full of joy. Chapter 847. It's a pleasant surprise, but how did you do it? Fang Qingshan also grinned and asked curiously, why do you think the two of them are like this? It turns out that their respective cultivation progress has greatly exceeded each other's expectations. In the eyes of Mosquito Dowrin, although Fang Qingshan's trip to the west this time would have a relatively large harvest, he would at most reach the Zenith Heaven realm. Timeless Arc was promoted to Unparalleled Realm, but he did not expect that not only did he reach the Zenith Heaven realm, but he was also at the peak of the Zenith Heaven realm, one step away from becoming a sage-to-be. Not only that, the pressure that Mosquito Dowrin felt from Fang Qingshan's body was even greater than the threat that he felt from Mingyi back then. It was simply absurd. One must know that Mingyi was one of the most powerful existences under the sage. And Fang Qingshan was just a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, but there was such a change. Timeless Arc must have had a qualitative breakthrough. What about Fang Qingshan? Originally, he thought that even if Mosquito Dowrin swallowed the 33 Heavens Creation Remit treasures, Pilgrimage Altar, Fortune Elixir, Moment King's Robe, and other treasures, he would at most break through to the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. However, the fact was that, like him, not only did he break through to the Zenith Heaven realm, but he was not at the early stage, but the late stage and not far from the peak. It was really strange. What the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? The next moment, the two asked again in unison. You tell me first. Mosquito Dowrin was very curious about such a big change in Fang Qingshan and urged. Okay. Fang Qingshan heard this, nodded, and told Mosquito Dowrin everything that happened in the journey to the West World. Mosquito Dowrin's mood was up and down. He thought that his life in a mortal world was wonderful enough, but compared with Fang Qingshan, boy, there was no comparison at all. In fact, Fang Qingshan did not expect so much. His initial goal was to advance the Timeless Arc to a peerless level, then use the Eternal Blessing to perfect the Deluo section of the Universal Tao Verification Mantra, and then use the journey to the West to break through to the Grand Luo level. However, he didn't expect that he would kick Guanyin out in the end. He just wanted to share the cake with Guanyin, but he didn't expect that in the end, he would directly kick Guanyin out. It was for this reason that the Buddhist sects had schemed against him at the Skyfall River. However, he was easily suppressed by him. Perhaps it was because of their pride, or perhaps they wanted to feel the pressure that Lin Fan brought to them. As a result, the Buddhist sects were driven to desperation and resorted to all sorts of methods. They even schemed against the saints. If he didn't have a backer, if he didn't have good luck, if he didn't have so many trump cards, I can't guarantee that I'll suffer a huge setback. At that time, a slight change in one part would affect everything else. If Journey to the West could not complete the task on time, the fight for the Gate of Eternal Life would become complicated. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. On the other hand, the Buddhist sects ended up empty-handed, suffering a double loss. It was really fate. What more could he say? Of course, all of this was thanks to the six-eared macaque that Fang Qingshan had accepted. Good things came to good people. If not for him, how could Fang Qingshan have obtained the Otherworld Bridge and the Thunderclap Flag? The other thing was the Zhodian Star Map. With this item, Fang Qingshan could be invincible. That was why he had snatched food from the tiger's mouth and obtained the 5-needle pine tree and the green lotus flag. By the way, what about those treasures? After sighing, Mosquito Dowrin came back to his senses and looked at Fang Qingshan with glowing eyes. He reached out and put on a begging posture. He heard that Fang Qingshan had used the 9-yang spring to extort 3 ordinary Khanate numinous treasures from Luya. With Fang Qingshan's current cultivation, not to mention ordinary numinous treasures, even the sun and moon pearls would not be of much use to him. Moreover, the eternal unit of the Timeless Arc would not be able to integrate such ordinary, low-grade treasures into it. In this way, it would be useful to him. Fang Qingshan could not help but roll his eyes. However, he still took them out and handed them to Mosquito Dowrin. After all, they had been specially prepared for him. Good. With these 3 treasures, I will be able to break through to the Sage-to-Be realm soon. Mosquito Dowrin played with the treasures in his hands and trembled with excitement. After breaking through to the sage-to-be realm and obtaining the gate of eternal life, breaking through to the mixed essence realm was only a matter of time. How could Mosquito Dowrin not be excited? After all, Mingy, who had always been suppressing him, had broken through to the sage-to-be realm many years ago. However, he had not even touched the threshold, let alone break through. Yet, he was about to surpass Mingy. This feeling was so refreshing. Just like how Zhuanti and Fong Qingshan felt when they saw the prosperity of Buddhism, Xian Min, who used to look down on him, was suppressed by him. That feeling was even more comfortable than comprehending the Great Way. Maybe I can get back what belongs to me. A strange look flashed in Mosquito Dorn's eyes. Just like how Fong Qingshan wanted to go to the Desolation World and gather the 36 ocean-calming divine pearls and the Khanate 5-direction flags. Mosquito Dowrin also wanted to fight back and regain control of the Blood Sea. In the past, because he was born later than Mingy, not only did he not get the blessing of the Blood Sea, but he also had to hide and couldn't even cultivate. If he made a big movement when he broke through, he would attract Mingy's attention and get himself killed. That was really precarious. Okay. Tell me what's going on with you. Seeing that Mosquito Dowrin had not spoken for a long time, Fong Qingshan had to interrupt his fantasies. All right. Mosquito Dowrin gave Fong Qingshan a very dissatisfied look, blaming him for interrupting his thinking, and then told Fong Qingshan what happened in Immortal World in the same detail. When Fong Qingshan left Immortal World and went to the journey to the west to look for opportunities, the whole Immortal World was in a mess. Of course, all this was caused by Fong Qingshan. First of all, in order to divert attention, he fished in troubled waters and opened the market. So many people in Immortal World got great opportunities. If the original Immortal World was an era when the Immortal King was respected and the Lord of Heaven dominated, even after the King of Heaven, no one was promoted to the Lord of Heaven. But now it's more than a big level. Now it's the era of the Immortal King. The Immortal King and the Lord of Heaven are springing up like bamboo shoots after the rain. Fong Qingshan also indirectly trapped himself. If it weren't for the great opportunity he got in the journey to the west this time, in the face of such an era of rising heroes, he would have to spend a lot of effort to seize the gate of immortal life. And if he didn't pay attention, he would fail. Secondly, he plundered the treasures of the heavenly court of fortune, the Origin dynasty, and the ancient Pill realm. As a result, the eternal Lord of Heaven, the Hichu heavenly lord, and others had to come out of the market in advance and lost a great opportunity. In addition, the 33 heavens good fortune treasure, the pilgrimage altar, and other treasures were lost. In the end, he had to seize other people's opportunities without breaking his hand. Otherwise, the two forces would have become yesterday's flowers. Chapter 848. On the one hand, they wanted to preserve their past glory and break through to the great Tao they dreamed of. On the other hand, they wanted to protect their opportunities and become the best. As a result, those who got the opportunities and those who didn't almost became mortal enemies, especially those who didn't have any background. At first, they were like stray dogs living in fear. As a result, the whole immortal world was in chaos. People were killed and robbed everywhere. Everyone was in a panic. They were hunted all over the world. Those who got the opportunities wanted more. They even wanted to kill those who opposed them. Those who didn't got the opportunities wanted to kill those who didn't. Those who didn't got the opportunities wanted to kill those who challenged their authority. The situation changed until the first unaffiliated person completely digested the opportunities and gave the unprepared big forces a thunderous blow. However, the only change was that they didn't have the power to fight back. The whole immortal world was even more chaotic. Those who had vested interests in this situation hated it very much. As for those unruly and ambitious people, they saw the hope of rising up. Of course, in this situation, the one who benefited the most was the Lord of Chaos. While the disaster and others were busy snatching the opportunities and didn't notice him, he got out with Fong Han's help. His cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. As a result, the Thunder Emperor of Heaven was accidentally ambushed by him and was severely injured. The Thunder Emperor didn't know if he was destined to have this tribulation or what. After being seriously injured by the Lord of Chaos, Fong Qingxue found him. With the help of Mosquito Dowren, he was suppressed, deprived of his cultivation and treasures, and completely died. Stepping on the Thunder Emperor's body, Fong Qingxue completely recovered her identity as the Electro Mother Lord of Heaven. She even broke through the shackles and became an immortal king. Mosquito Dowren was not surprised. Fong Qingxue was also a person with great luck. She was the only one who was favored by the gate of eternal life and saw through the great destiny technique. Before her reincarnation, she was the first Lord of Heaven. It was not an exaggeration to have such an achievement. Not only Fong Qingxue, Fong Han, Venerable Ling Long, and Feng Baiyu also took the opportunity to break through to the immortal king realm. Chaos and tribulation meant danger, death, and death to others. But to them, it was a great opportunity. Riches were sought in danger, and a great tribulation was also a great opportunity. Fong Han himself is the immortal world's son of destiny, and the breakthrough is naturally a matter of course. After he broke through to the heavenly monarch realm, he went to the divine realm to snatch the half of the world tree. Although they did not succeed, they killed many heaven monarchs of the god race and snatched many cardinal treasures. After that, he went to the treasure realm and rescued the Emperor Brush and the others. He even obtained the heavenly venerate divine robe. This was a treasure forged by the creation immortal king from the 33 heavens. It far surpassed the defensive ability of the Moment King's robe. It was as if he was cheating. Fong Han used the group mockery skill as a guide to turn misfortune into fortune and misfortune into fortune. His cultivation advanced rapidly. As for Venerable Ling Long and Feng Baiyu, it was much simpler. After Venerable Ling Long reached the immortal world, she entered the real primordial treasure to cultivate. After breaking through to the heavenly monarch realm, she came out of seclusion and snatched some opportunities. Her breakthrough to the immortal king realm was also smooth. Feng Baiyu, like Fong Qingxue, followed Fong Han to the divine realm with the help of a backup plan left behind in his previous life. At the cost of the lives of 129,600 experts of the god race, including dozens of heavenly monarchs, the weakest of which was a golden immortal, he successfully comprehended the Tao of termination and broke through to the immortal king realm. Originally, when heroes rose up and fought for the world, the Origin Dynasty, the Truth's Sacred Land, the Creation Heavenly Court, the Buddha Realm, the Divine Realm, the Treasure Realm, the Foreign World, the Dragon Realm. Except for the world beyond worlds, almost all of them were inevitably dragged into the chaos. The Five Elements sect naturally could not stay out of it. However, with the rise of Fong Qingxue, Fong Han, Venerable Ling Long, Feng Baiyu, and the others, after Mosquito Dowren devoured the creation treasure of the 33 heavens, the pilgrimage altar, the instant royal robe, and other treasures, Mosquito Dowren's cultivation improved by leaps and bounds, reaching the grand heavenly realm. Not to mention those ancient heavenly monarchs who obtained opportunities and broke through to the immortal king realm. Even the creation, origin, truth, primordial treasure, and the others could not win against him. The number of immortal kings alone could be counted on one hand. Moreover, the Five Elements sect did not expand. They only guarded their own territory. Therefore, due to such deterrence, no one dared to provoke them. What about Mosquito Dowren himself? He was not a person who could sit still. Fong Han and the others had gone out to search for opportunities. How could he not take advantage of the situation? One should know that the resources he consumed to break through his cultivation were almost comparable to the timeless Arkansas. After breaking through to the grand heavenly realm this time, he almost used up all the resources he plundered the last time. Anyway, the Five Elements sect will be fine for the time being. Therefore, he took advantage of the killing in all directions and once again did his old job, using war to nurture war, snatching opportunities, and accumulating resources. First, he went to the bottomless abyss. The bottomless abyss was the most dangerous legendary place in the heaven realm. It was equivalent to the eternal world's ultimate. It was the source of evil, the place where all the filth, darkness, and evil gathered in the heaven realm. If the heavenly monarchs entered it, they would all die. The evil in it was not even comparable to the demon realm. Like the land of origin, it was not just a paradise for countless powerful evil spirits and evil spirits. However, whether it was the terrain or the evil spirits, they had all gone up a level. Of course, danger was often accompanied by opportunities. There were countless treasures in the bottomless abyss, and even divine objects ejected from the gate of eternal life fell into it. Legend had it that the heavenly monarch of calamity and the others of the fortune heavenly court collected all kinds of treasures here and refined the saint-grade immortal treasure of the 33 heavens. This place might be extremely dangerous for others. Even the calamity and the others were very careful when refining the treasure. But for Mosquito Dowrin, it was like his own back garden. In terms of cultivation, he had already broken through to the grand heavenly realm. Although it was dangerous here, it was obvious that it could only harm ordinary immortal kings at most. Breaking through to the grand heavenly realm, not to mention the bottomless abyss, there was nowhere in the eternal world that he could not go except for the gate of eternal life. Secondly, in addition to the dangerous terrain and the bottomless abyss, there were also endless evil spirits. Not to mention the dangerous terrain, how could the environment here be compared to the blood sea where he was born? As for the evil spirits, what evil spirit could be more ferocious than Mosquito Dowrin? He himself was transformed from the primordial beast blood-winged black mosquito, a top-notch beast, more ferocious than the four evils of heaven and earth. It was fine if those evil spirits did not come to him, but if they did, it would be like throwing a meat bun at a dog, and they would not be able to return. Therefore, the arrival of Mosquito Dowrin made these evil spirits in the bottomless abyss suffer 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Because even if you don't go to him, he will come to you. And if you were found by Mosquito Dowrin, there was basically no chance of survival. Whether it was a one-on-one fight or a group attack, it was useless against Mosquito Dowrin. Chapter 849. In a one-on-one fight, disregarding veteran immortal kings like the Fortune Immortal King, he would need geniuses like Fong Han and Fong Qingxue. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be qualified to fight. Ganging up on them was a joke to Mosquito Dowrin. Disregarding the fact that once one's strength reached a certain level, it was a complete joke to rely on numbers to win. Just as 10 million clones alone could drown his enemies with bubbles. Who knew who would be ganging up on? Yes, Mosquito Dowrin used to have 1 million clones. Now that his cultivation level had broken through, he had 10 million. If he continued to break through, it wouldn't be long before he reached Patriarch Nether River's 480 million son of blood clones. Of course, Mosquito Dowrin didn't completely devour these demons. After all, even though they were demons, they were still living beings. As long as they were living beings, they were the spirits of the world. Even if they were demons, you could kill them, but devouring them was a taboo. It was fine to devour less, but it wouldn't do you any good if you devoured too much. Therefore, after Mosquito Dowrin suppressed the demons, he let them out. He took control of the bottomless abyss and turned it into his backyard. He chased everyone else out and enjoyed the bottomless abyss for himself. In the bottomless abyss, Mosquito Dowrin not only obtained many rare treasures, but he also obtained a heavenly item that wasn't any weaker than the pilgrimage altar, Xana robe, or sky burying coffin. It was the ancient Sage Hall. The so-called ancient Sage Hall was the heavenly court of the previous era. It was created by the leader of the Saint Hall and the leader of the arbitration using various heavenly items. It contained 10 heavens meridians. One had to know that the Hongmeng Palace only had 6 heavens meridians. Even though the Fortune Immortal King had knocked them off their positions, They had accumulated a lot of resources. It wasn't just the bottomless abyss. Mosquito Dowrin even used the same trick. He visited the universal truth sacred land, the Tiani mother religion, the primordial demon sect, and other major forces. Unfortunately, because of the mistakes of the Origin dynasty and the Fortune heavenly court, these people were all on guard. The most important treasures, such as the Door of Wonders and the 33 Heavens ancient characters, were not obtained. However, with Mosquito Doran's cultivation level and character, he naturally wouldn't return empty-handed. He didn't obtain the most important treasures, but he did obtain many inferior treasures. In addition, it wasn't far from the end of the era. The Great Tribulation had begun, and there were many treasures. Although Mosquito Doran wasn't as strong as Fong Han Fong, he was still one. One Fong 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 Fong. Especially since he was the first person in the immortal world to break through the zenith heaven and transcend fate. Heavenly Realm 1-1-1-1, Immortal Realm 1-1 formation. The Gate of Fortune, the Gate of Yin Yang, the Gate of Myriad Tribulations, the Gate of Algebra, the Gate of Totem, the Gate of Nothingness, the Gate of Swallowing and Spitting, the Gate of Origin, the Gate of Primordial Mist, the Gate of Primordial Beginning, the Supreme Gate of Dharma, the Gate of Shattering, the Gate of Holiness, the Gate of Martial Tao. Many of these divine items from before the Gate of Eternal Life might not be as powerful as the Gate of Eternal Life, but they all controlled a portion of the laws of heaven and earth. Heavenly items. Moreover, even without luck with Mosquito Doran's cultivation level, he could snatch a lot of them. Because of this, Mosquito Doran could improve by leaps and bounds. He broke through the grand heavenly realm and almost caught up to his main body. The world of great competition. After listening to Mosquito Doran, Fong Qingshan couldn't help but sigh. At the same time, he was sincerely happy that Mosquito Doran and the Five Elements sect could make such progress. Especially Mosquito Doran, who was about to reach the peak of the grand heavenly realm. In addition to the 3 innate spiritual treasures he brought back, breaking through to the quasi-saint realm was just around the corner. Moreover, he was about to get the Door of Eternal Life. He was getting closer and closer to the primordial realm. Only when he reached the primordial realm could he truly stand at the peak of the pyramid. He might not become a chess player, but he would at least be able to jump out of the chessboard and have the power to protect himself. He would not become someone else's pawn. By the way, I also have a gift for you. After talking about his experience, Mosquito Doran suddenly smiled. Oh, what is it? Fong Qingshan did not expect that Mosquito Doran would have a surprise waiting for him and asked with interest. Guess. Mosquito Doran kept him guessing. When Fong Qingshan heard this, he thought about it carefully. This gift must be extraordinary for Mosquito Doran to be so smug. If it was not a treasure, it would be of great use to him. In the entire immortal world, only the Door of Eternal Life, the Stone of 3 Lives, the Axe of Nature, and a few other creation treasures could enter Fong Qingshan's eyes. However, it should be impossible. The Door of Eternal Life was ruled out first, and the other treasures either had owners or were missing. Moreover, as long as it was not the Door of Eternal Life, even if other treasures fell into the hands of Fong Qingshan, they would only be equivalent to a powerful spiritual treasure, similar to the top innate spiritual treasures he had just given to Mosquito Doran. Even if they were more powerful, they would not be much more powerful. Therefore, it should be something of great use to him. And the one that was of great use to him should also include the clone of the World Tree. For the clone of the World Tree, only the half of the World Tree in the virtual God realm was useful. If Mosquito Doran got the half of the World Tree in the virtual God realm, it was impossible for the clone of the World Tree to not sense it. Therefore, it should be impossible. And there was only something useful to the main body. And Fong Qingshan had sensed a familiar power before. It should be the way of the 5 elements. Thinking of the treasures corresponding to the way of the 5 elements in the immortal world, and thinking of Mosquito Doran helping Fong Qingxue kill the Thunder Emperor, Fong Qingshan immediately thought of something. and his eyes suddenly lit up. Is it the 5 big characters representing the origin of the 5 elements? How do you know? When Mosquito Dowron heard this, his eyes widened, and he suddenly felt bored. In the door of eternal life, there were many big characters that represented the origin of the great way that were spat out from the door of eternal life. When Fang Qingshan was in the lower world, he had obtained the word mountain in the misty treasure house. The most powerful one was naturally the way. Its power was superior to any character, and it was the first of all characters. It could restrain and control tens of thousands of characters. In addition, there was the talisman of 6 runes, which Fang Han had obtained to suppress the demon venerable Scarlet Abyss and integrate it into the 8-divisional pagoda. It was similar to the golden sticker used by Buddha to suppress the Monkey King in the Journey to the West. In addition, there were 33 ancient characters, 9 runes, 12 runes, and so on. The 5 big characters of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth in Mosquito Dowron's hands represented the origin of the 5 elements, and naturally, they were no exception. Although these treasures were rare treasures and did not enter the ranks of immortal weapons, they were like the divine objects of the heavens, and their power was infinite. The big characters of the 5 elements were originally mastered by the Emperor of the Netherworld, and it was precisely because of this that the Emperor of the Netherworld was able to cultivate the great 5 elements technique to the peak, and no one in the world could match him. Because mastering the 5 elements characters, the innate origin was equivalent to mastering the 5 elements origin law of the immortal world. Chapter 850. If it was in the world of desolation, mastering the origin of law would be equivalent to the sage realm. Unfortunately, in the immortal world, fate reigned supreme. If one wanted to transcend the zenith heaven, they could only comprehend fate and the gate of eternal life. Therefore, whether it was the strongest immortal king in history, the primordial demon lord, the founders of the 3 dynasties, the origin, the creation, the truth, the primordial Taoist, the myth old man, and so on, they had long reached the peak of the immortal king realm, but they could only waste their time, waiting for fate to open an eternal life to appear. Only in this way could they seize the opportunity and break the shackles. These people had not transcended, and it was even more impossible for the Emperor of Netherworld to obtain the 5 elements origin of words. Moreover, his fate was not good. Although he was a genius with unparalleled luck, and he had Taoist reincarnation to impart his skills to him, it was a pity that he was killed by the Heaven Court with the creation treasure of the 33 heavens as soon as he ascended to the immortal realm. The treasure fell into the hands of Thunder Emperor. It was really a sad and pitiful fate. Later, the Chaos Heavenly Lord escaped and took the opportunity to give the Thunder Emperor a fierce blow, seriously injuring him, take advantage of his weakness, and kill him. However, Fang Qingxue took advantage of the situation. With the help of the Mosquito Taoist, she killed the Thunder Emperor. Not only did she take revenge, but she also took back the fortuitous encounter that belonged to her. At the same time, she also obtained the Thunder Emperor's Thunder Tribulation. As for the large character that belonged to the 5 elements, it naturally fell into the hands of the Mosquito Taoist. Not bad, not bad. With these words, I have a better grasp on comprehending the Tao of the 5 elements. It has saved me quite a bit of time. Fang Qingshan nodded repeatedly. He himself comprehended the Tao of 5 elements, the 5 elements origin of words, 5 second-generation top-notch, innate 5 elements spiritual roots, 5 needles pine, the innate 5 direction flags, and the primordial violet chi. Fang Qingshan's path to breaking through to the primordial chaos realm was basically opened. There was no impenetrable wall in the world. Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dowron looted the world. Especially in the end, after Mosquito Dowron broke through, he was naturally not as careful as before. The traces he left behind were eventually discovered by someone. This discovery immediately pointed all the spearheads at the 5 elements sect. Damn it! I was wondering why Fang Qingshan's cultivation base could break through so quickly. So, It's because he looted the treasuries of our various forces. Damn it, I can't let him go. I have to kill Fang Qingshan and destroy the Five Elements sect. But Fang Qingshan now has the power of a celestial king, and he also has the timeless ark's good fortune treasure. Dealing with him is very, very, very difficult. Moreover, the Five Elements sect now has 5 kings. Their power is monstrous. How could it be easy to deal with them? Immortal king? Were there not many immortal kings now? As for supreme treasures of fortune, it's not like we don't have them. That's right. As long as everyone is united, the destruction of the Five Elements sect and Fang Qingshan is just around the corner. Just as Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin were enjoying their leisure time, they didn't know that an anti-Five Elements sect alliance had been formed, including the Good Fortune Heavenly Court, the Origin Dynasty, the Holy Land of Truth, and so on, more than half of the celestial world's strength. Almost all the world's enemies. However, even if Fang Qingshan knew about it, he didn't care. Although, because of him, the power level of the immortal world has made a qualitative leap. Whether it is an expert or a supreme treasure, it is much more than the original track. However, the devil is a foot higher. Others have made rapid progress, and he has made rapid progress. If it weren't for the fact that the Gate of Eternal Life was an innate supreme treasure, it would have been impossible for Fang Qingshan to calculate its specific location. He didn't need to wait here. He had already gone with Mosquito Dowrin to collect the Gate of Eternal Life. At his level, the whole immortal world, except for the supreme treasure of the Gate of Eternal Life, nothing else was of much use to him. Even if it was the power of will of all living beings, as more and more small worlds were opened up in the timeless arc and more creatures were born, this power of will was not in his eyes at all. If he wanted to go further now, he had to go to a more powerful world. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to break through. After all, if it weren't for the Gate of Eternal Life, the entire immortal world could bear at most the great principal golden immortal. Higher than this realm, only the void-breaking realm. And if you don't go yourself, heaven and earth will repel you. Five Elements sect. Fang Qingshan is refining the 5 original characters of the 5 elements, and, at the same time, cultivating the 5 elements' spiritual roots with all his strength, and then branching out, extracting the power of the origin and integrating it into the 5 needle pine. Even the last 5 original characters of the 5 elements, Fang Qingshan is ready to integrate them into the 5 needle pine. Unfortunately, even so, the 5 needle pine can only break through the top of the 10 spiritual roots. There's still a long way to go to break through the limit of the innate spiritual roots and reach the chaotic level. That is a qualitative breakthrough. It's just like the breakthrough of the innate supreme treasure to the chaotic spiritual treasure. Don't you see even the 3 treasures of opening the heavens, with the chaotic treasure as the foundation and absorbing the merit of opening the heavens, can only reach the limit of the innate supreme treasure? Although it's only one step, it's a huge chasm. But it's more than enough to help Fang Qingshan cultivate the laws of the 5 elements. And the effect is 10 times more significant than the blessing of the Bodhi wood and the spiritual liquid of origin. Mosquito Dowrin is also devouring and refining the 3 top-grade, innate spiritual treasures obtained from Fang Qingshan. As long as it completely devours them, breaking through to the sage-to-be is just around the corner. The only thing that hasn't changed is probably the clone of the world tree in Fang Qingshan's body. However, with the foundation of the past, coupled with the fact that it is Fang Qingshan's clone, Fang Qingshan's cultivation has broken through, its own strength has also risen, and its cultivation has reached the peak of the primordial unity. If he can get half of the world tree in the void god realm, even if he can't reach the sage-to-be, breaking through to the great principal realm should not be a problem. As for the future development of the clone of the world tree, Fang Qingshan has already planned it. After the 5 elements spirit roots that split off from the branches are nurtured, the power of origin is extracted and fused into the clone of the world tree. Not just the 5 elements, but also the moon osmanthus. After going to the Desolation World, Feng Qingshan not only planned to obtain treasures such as the Khanate Five Elements banners, but also collected all kinds of spirit roots. Feng Baiyu could slay the god race and comprehend the twilight of the gods. The clone of the World Tree can do the same. The World Tree is the origin of all wood, and if it can gather 129,600 different spirit roots and extract the power of origin and fuse it into the World Tree, it will definitely achieve unimaginable results. Finally, there's the World Tree, which is actually the World Tree, just that it hasn't fully grown yet. Otherwise, after the fall of Mount Bujo, there would be no need to slay the Black Tortoise. With this spirit root and many other spirit origins, it wouldn't be difficult for the clone of the World Tree to catch up. Interesting. At a certain moment, the cultivating Feng Qingshan and Mosquito Daoran suddenly opened their eyes, a faint smile on their faces. Buzz. Not long after, Feng Han, Feng Qingxiu, Venerable Ling Long, Feng Baiyu, and Xiong Qi, who have already broken through to the Immortal King realm, suddenly felt a sudden impulse. Then, the Five Elements Sect's mountain guarding formation was automatically activated. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.